most people seek vanity, not truth. In a world obsessed with appearance, validation, and applause, truth has become the forgotten language of the soul. Most people are not searching for what is real. They are searching for what feels good, what looks impressive, and what earns them admiration. They chase reflections instead of reality, curating lives that glimmer on the surface while starving for authenticity underneath. Social media has turned validation into currency, and people spend their existence trying to buy significance through likes, followers, and fleeting praise. The pursuit of vanity is intoxicating because it promises belonging. When others approve of us, it feels like proof that we matter. But vanity is a cruel deceiver. It feeds the ego while starving the spirit. The more one chases admiration, the emptier the applause feels, and the louder the silence becomes when the crowd moves on. Truth, on the other hand, demands courage. It asks you to strip away illusion, to stand naked in your imperfection, and to confront the uncomfortable realities that most would rather avoid. Those who seek truth walk a lonelier road, for honesty is rarely popular. Speaking it makes others uncomfortable. Living it separates you from the masses. Yet it is in that solitude that you begin to see the world without filters, to feel depth where others only see decoration. Vanity builds a mirror. Truth builds a window. One reflects yourself endlessly, the other lets light in, and only through that light can you truly see who you are and what it means to be free. Happiness is a pause in pain. Happiness is not the constant state we imagine it to be. It is the brief silence between storms, the fleeting breath between heartbreaks, the moment when the ache subsides just long enough for us to remember what peace feels like. Most people spend their lives chasing happiness as if it were a permanent destination, but in truth, it is a pause, a fragile interlude in the ongoing rhythm of struggle and survival. It arrives quietly, often unnoticed, in the small spaces where pain loosens its grip, a laugh shared after tears, sunlight breaking through after days of rain, a night's rest after endless worry. We crave happiness because pain is our default teacher. Every wound shapes us, every disappointment deepens us, and within those cracks, happiness occasionally blooms like a wildflower through concrete. The mistake is believing that happiness should be endless, that if we aren't feeling it all the time, something is wrong. But happiness is not meant to stay. It's meant to remind us that the hurt is not all there is. When you understand this, life changes. You stop clinging to joy as if it might vanish, because you know it will. You stop fearing pain as if it will destroy you, because it won't. Instead, you learn to listen for the quiet moments when your suffering takes a breath. Those moments, however brief, are the proof that your heart still beats, that you still feel, that you are still alive enough to notice when the pain fades, and in that pause, happiness lives. Solitude breeds strength. Solitude is not loneliness. It is the crucible where resilience is forged and identity is reborn. When the noise of the world fades and you are left alone with your thoughts, the truth of who you are begins to echo back at you. It is in that silence that your weaknesses stop hiding behind distraction, and your mind begins to sharpen like steel under pressure. Most fear solitude because it strips away illusion. It forces you to face the raw, unfiltered version of yourself, the one without validation, applause, or reassurance. But it is exactly in that discomfort that inner strength is born. When no one is watching, your choices become honest. When no one is listening, your thoughts become louder, clearer, truer. Solitude teaches you that you are your own anchor, that peace does not come from others, but from the ability to stand alone without falling apart. The world glorifies connection, yet forgets that connection means nothing if it is built on dependency. The strongest souls are not those who avoid solitude, but those who have walked through it, sat with their pain, and emerged self-sufficient. Isolation, when chosen, becomes transformation. In solitude, the heart learns endurance, the mind learns clarity, and the soul learns freedom. You stop seeking strength in numbers and start finding it in stillness. You learn that silence doesn't break you, it builds you. And when you finally step back into the world, you do so not needing its approval, but offering your presence from a place of unshakable power. Desire enslaves. Desire is the invisible chain that binds even the freest of souls. It begins as a whisper, a want, a craving, a dream, and before you realize it, it grows into a command that rules your thoughts, your time, your peace. We like to believe desire gives life purpose, but more often it gives life torment. It convinces you that fulfillment lies just beyond your reach, that happiness lives in the next achievement, the next lover, the next possession. And so you chase endlessly, mistaking motion for meaning, never noticing that the pursuit itself has become your prison. Desire thrives on absence. It feeds on what you don't have, what you can't control, what you believe will finally make you whole. But the truth is brutal. Nothing you gain can quiet the hunger, because the hunger itself is what defines you when you live through desire. It promises freedom, but delivers dependency. You become addicted to anticipation, to the sweet agony of wanting, until peace feels foreign and stillness unbearable. To be enslaved by desire is to surrender your power to illusion. Every longing whispers, "You are not enough yet." But to see through that lie is liberation. When you stop worshiping what could be and begin accepting what is, you cut the chain. You realize the beauty of simplicity, the strength in contentment, the rare serenity in wanting nothing. For only when desire loosens its grip do you remember what it means to breathe freely, to exist without need, to live without chains. Control starts with indifference. True control is not born from dominance or obsession. It begins with the quiet power of not needing an outcome to define you. Indifference is often mistaken for apathy, but in its purest form, it is freedom. It is the calm refusal to let emotions dictate your behavior, the unshakable stillness that remains when the world tries to pull you into chaos. The one who does not crave approval cannot be manipulated. The one who does not fear loss cannot be controlled. Indifference is the armor of the disciplined mind, the invisible line between reacting and ruling. When you stop needing things to go your way, you begin to see clearly. The desperate cling to control, the wise embody it. Indifference teaches you that power does not come from forcing the world to bend, but from refusing to break when it doesn't. It's the art of being unmoved by provocation, of smiling at rejection, of walking away from what no longer deserves your energy. When you master indifference, emotions become tools rather than masters. You can feel without drowning, desire without depending, act without attachment. This state is not coldness, it's clarity. It is not the absence of care, but the presence of composure. Control is not about winning. It's about remaining centered while everything around you tries to pull you off balance. The indifferent are untouchable because they have learned the secret the world fears most. When nothing owns you, nothing can destroy you. Ignorance shouts, wisdom stays silent. Ignorance is loud because it needs to be heard to feel real. It fills the air with certainty, clinging to noise as proof of its importance. Those who know little often speak the most, mistaking volume for conviction and confusion for clarity. They rush to assert, to argue, to be right, because silence feels like defeat to the insecure mind. But wisdom moves differently. It does not demand attention. It observes, it listens, it understands before it speaks. Wisdom knows that truth does not need to shout. It simply is. Silence is the language of the wise because it carries weight. It shows restraint in a world addicted to reaction. It recognizes that most people do not listen to understand. They listen to reply. So the wise conserve their words, knowing that speech without reflection is just noise, and noise, no matter how passionate, cannot illuminate darkness. The ignorant crave validation through sound. The wise find peace in understanding that silence cannot be misquoted. There is power in holding your tongue when others spill theirs recklessly. It is not weakness, it is mastery. The ability to remain still while chaos screams around you is what separates noise from depth, impulse from insight. True wisdom doesn't argue with ignorance, it outlasts it. And when the shouting fades, when the ego burns itself out, what remains is the quiet presence of understanding, the calm voice that never needed to prove itself to be heard. Power hides in calm. True power does not roar, it whispers. It does not announce itself with chaos or rage, but moves quietly, like deep waters that seem still on the surface, yet hold immense force beneath. Calm is the mask of mastery, the quiet confidence of one who has no need to prove anything. When you are calm, you are untouchable. The world may provoke, insult, or challenge you, but your composure becomes your armor. Those who react lose control. Those who remain still command it. Calm is not the absence of emotion. It is the discipline of emotion. It's the moment you feel the fire rising inside you and choose to let it burn without letting it consume. In calmness, you see what others can't. You think while others panic. You act with precision while others flail in impulse. The calm person bends the storm to their will because they are not caught in its wind. The powerful understand that rage is loud but fleeting, while composure is quiet but eternal. Calmness disarms opponents, confuses manipulators, and attracts respect without effort. It signals control, self-awareness, and depth, a rare combination that cannot be faked. In every battle, the one who keeps their peace holds the advantage. To be calm is not to be weak. It is to be so strong that the world's noise cannot shake you. It is to carry stillness like a weapon and silence like a crown. In a world addicted to reaction, calm is the highest form of rebellion and the purest expression of power. People respect force, not virtue. The world loves to preach morality, yet it bows to power. Virtue inspires admiration only when it stands behind strength. Without it, it is dismissed as weakness. People may praise kindness, honesty, and humility, but when conflict arises, they follow the loudest voice, not the wisest one. It is an ugly truth that strength, not goodness, commands respect. History remembers conquerors more than saints, leaders more than thinkers, those who bend reality rather than simply endure it. Force has a language the human mind instinctively understands. It radiates certainty in a world terrified of uncertainty. It demands obedience, not agreement, and most comply, not out of belief, but out of fear, awe, or survival. Virtue, on the other hand, asks for understanding, patience, and self-restraint, qualities many find exhausting in a world built on competition. To be virtuous without strength is to whisper in a storm. Your voice disappears in the wind while those who roar command the crowd. Yet force does not always mean violence. It can be the quiet, unshakable presence of conviction, the power to act when others hesitate, the calm dominance of someone who knows their worth. True strength marries virtue with will, turning morality into movement, belief into impact. But until then, the masses will continue to mistake gentleness for weakness, compassion for fragility, and silence for submission. People respect what they fear before what they love, and only when virtue learns to carry a sword does the world finally listen. The crowd is blind. The crowd does not think. It follows. It moves like a tide, not out of reason, but out of fear of being left behind. Within the crowd, individuality dissolves, and the mind surrenders to the comfort of belonging. People stop seeing with their own eyes and begin to borrow the vision of others, mistaking collective noise for truth. The crowd is a sanctuary for the uncertain, a place where conviction is replaced by conformity. It applauds without understanding, condemns without questioning, and believes without seeing. The blindness of the crowd lies not in ignorance, but in surrender. Each person within it knows a fragment of truth, but together they abandon it for the illusion of unity. The crowd craves approval more than truth, spectacle more than substance. It hunts for idols to worship and enemies to destroy, because thinking for oneself demands courage, and courage is scarce where comfort reigns. In a crowd, morality bends, reason fades, and the individual's conscience becomes a whisper drowned by the roar of the majority. History is filled with examples of this blindness, masses cheering for lies, condemning the innocent, following leaders who lead them to ruin. The crowd doesn't seek what's right. It seeks what feels safe, what feels loud, what feels popular. To see while surrounded by the blind is a lonely burden, yet it is in that loneliness that vision is born. For those who dare to stand apart, to question, to refuse the trance of the many, those are the ones who truly see. Reason rarely wins hearts. Logic speaks to the mind, but emotion rules the kingdom of the human soul. You can present flawless arguments, undeniable evidence, and cold, perfect truth, but hearts are not swayed by precision. They are moved by feeling. People are not machines built to process reason. They are storms of longing, fear, and hope. What convinces them is not what they understand, but what they feel to be true. That is why reason so often loses where emotion merely whispers. We are creatures of narrative, not numbers. The heart does not respond to facts. It responds to connection. A single story can undo 1,000 statistics. A tear can silence a well-constructed argument. When people believe, they rarely believe because of logic. They believe because something inside them wants to believe. Desire and fear twist truth into shapes that feel comforting, and reason, though noble, becomes powerless in the presence of passion. This is why lovers stay where logic says leave, why crowds follow leaders who offer emotion over evidence, why truth so often stands alone while illusion gathers a following. Reason can guide, but it cannot ignite. It can explain love, but it cannot create it. The mind understands, but the heart decides. And no matter how rational you are, when the moment comes, you will follow what makes you feel alive, not what makes sense. Because reason may build walls, but emotion tears them down. And that is why it will always win where logic dares to speak. Attachment is weakness. Attachment disguises itself as love, loyalty, and meaning. But beneath its warmth lies dependency, fear, and the quiet surrender of your power. To be attached is to hand over pieces of your peace, binding your happiness to something you cannot control. You convince yourself that you cannot live without it, that this person, possession, or dream defines your worth. But every attachment becomes a chain, and every chain eventually tightens. Attachment feeds on fear, the fear of loss, of emptiness, of facing yourself without the thing you cling to. It tells you that security comes from holding tighter, when in truth, it is found only in letting go. The more attached you are, the more fragile you become, because everything external can vanish in an instant. The person may leave, the dream may die, the world may change, and what remains of you then? Freedom is not found in detachment from feeling, but in detachment from control. To love without clinging, to give without expecting, to live without fearing loss. That is strength. When you no longer depend on outcomes to define your peace, you become untouchable. You stop drowning in the tides of change and learn to float above them. Those who master detachment are not cold. They are free. They understand that nothing truly belongs to them, and yet they lose nothing, because their peace is self-contained. Attachment weakens the soul by making it need. Freedom strengthens it by making it whole. And in that wholeness, you finally discover the power of needing nothing and being everything. Silence dominates. Silence is not the absence of power. It is its purest form. Words can deceive, distract, and dilute intent, but silence cuts deeper than speech ever can. It unsettles the arrogant, exposes the insecure, and commands attention without a single sound. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes an act of defiance, a weapon that few know how to wield. It doesn't beg to be understood. It forces others to lean in, to wonder, to fill the void with their own unease. The silent do not rush to prove themselves. They let their presence speak. Every pause, every unspoken thought becomes a mirror in which others see their own fears reflected. The loud demand acknowledgement. The silent already have it. True dominance is not in controlling others through words, but in controlling oneself enough to not need them. Silence radiates composure. It says, I am not desperate for your validation, and that, more than any argument or boast, commands respect. There is a gravity in silence that pulls others toward it. It gives mystery its form and authority its edge. Those who master it understand that sound reveals, but silence reveals more. It exposes intent. It amplifies emotion. It shifts power without confrontation. Silence is both a shield and a blade. It conceals strategy while cutting through chaos. The one who remains calm while others speak out of fear is the one who truly holds control. For in silence, dominance is not declared. It is felt. Pain teaches. Pleasure distracts. Pain is the harshest teacher, yet the only one we truly learn from. It strips away illusion, exposing who we are beneath comfort. Every heartbreak, every failure, every loss carves lessons into the soul that no joy could ever deliver. Pain forces awareness. It demands reflection, growth, and humility. It makes you confront your fragility, your limits, your dependence on things that were never meant to last. It burns away pretense until only truth remains. Those who run from pain remain children in spirit. Those who face it become tempered, like steel through fire. Pleasure, on the other hand, whispers lullabies that make you forget. It numbs the ache, silences the questions, and blinds you to the lessons hiding in the hurt. Pleasure is fleeting. It fills the moment but empties the soul when it fades. It distracts you from purpose, convincing you that comfort equals fulfillment. Yet pleasure has never made anyone wise. It is pain that builds character, shapes perspective, and deepens understanding. Pleasure may make life sweet, but pain gives it meaning. The paradox is cruel, yet beautiful. What hurts you refines you. What soothes you often weakens you. Those who learn to embrace pain, to listen when it speaks, unlock a strength that pleasure can never grant. Pain teaches patience, resilience, and gratitude. Pleasure merely teaches hunger for more. When you stop fearing pain, you begin to grow. When you stop worshiping pleasure, you begin to see. And in that clarity, you finally understand why wisdom is always born in suffering. Never depend on gratitude. Gratitude is beautiful, but fragile. It fades faster than memory, and expecting it is a silent invitation to disappointment. Most people don't remember what was done for them. They remember how they feel now. You can pour yourself into others, sacrifice, give without measure, and still, when the moment passes, when their need is met, they will move on, forgetting the hands that lifted them. Gratitude is not a guarantee. It is a rarity, a brief flicker in the self-centered rhythm of human nature. Depending on gratitude is a slow way to break your own heart. When your kindness comes with expectation, it ceases to be kindness. It becomes a transaction, and transactions breed resentment when payment never arrives. The truth is, people often love convenience more than loyalty. They cherish what you give only until they no longer need it. The world will not always thank you, even when you deserve it most. Freedom begins when you give without waiting for applause, when you do good because it aligns with your character, not because you crave acknowledgement. The moment you stop depending on gratitude, you reclaim your power. You stop giving to be seen and start giving to be whole. Gratitude, when it comes, will feel pure, but when it doesn't, you will still stand unshaken. For those who act from self-respect rather than the hope of appreciation, peace replaces bitterness. And that is the quiet strength of those who expect nothing, yet give everything. The world owes you nothing. The belief that life should reward you simply for trying is the silent poison that kills ambition and breeds resentment. The world is not your parent, not your friend, not your protector. It is indifferent, vast, and unapologetically real. It does not care how kind you are, how hard you've worked, or how much you think you deserve. The sooner you understand that, the stronger you become, because when you stop expecting the world to give, you start taking responsibility for creating. Entitlement is a comforting illusion. It whispers that fairness will find you, that effort guarantees reward, that someone out there is keeping score. But the truth is harsher. The world does not owe you success, love, or recognition. It only offers opportunity, and it is up to you to seize it before someone else does. Those who wait to be given will always kneel before those who choose to take. There is freedom in this realization. When you stop expecting life to be fair, disappointment loses its power. When you stop demanding ease, hardship becomes your teacher. When you stop believing you're owed anything, gratitude takes root where bitterness once lived. The strongest people are not those who feel favored by the world. They are those who learn to build their own favor, to carve meaning out of struggle, to rise without applause. The world owes you nothing, but it will give you everything if you earn it, not through complaint, but through relentless will, quiet resilience, and the refusal to wait for anyone's permission to begin. Few think, most copy. Original thought is a rebellion, and rebellion terrifies the crowd. Most people do not think. They imitate. They absorb opinions, adopt trends, and repeat what feels safe because independent thought carries the burden of isolation. To think for yourself is to stand apart from the collective rhythm, to question the truths that everyone else blindly accepts. It's uncomfortable, it's lonely, and it's dangerous to the fragile order built on conformity. And so, instead of thinking, people copy. They copy words, behaviors, beliefs, recycling ideas dressed as their own, mistaking agreement for intelligence and imitation for identity. Society rewards sameness. Schools teach memory, not inquiry. Workplaces praise compliance over creativity. Even social media has turned expression into performance, where originality is filtered, edited, and algorithmically optimized. In this machinery of mimicry, true thinkers become outcasts, mocked, doubted, or ignored until the world realizes they were right all along. Most prefer comfort over clarity, applause over truth, routine over risk. But those who dare to think break through the illusion. They see the strings behind the puppet show. They create rather than copy, question rather than conform. Their minds are alive with friction and curiosity, constantly dismantling and rebuilding their understanding of the world. Thinking hurts. It burns away ignorance and shatters belonging. But it also liberates. Few choose that fire, but those who do become the ones who shape reality, while the rest merely repeat it. For the crowd survives by imitation. The few evolve through thought. Control yourself, not others. The greatest illusion of power is believing you can control anyone but yourself. People spend their lives trying to bend the world to their will, forcing outcomes, manipulating emotions, demanding obedience, never realizing that true mastery lies not in domination, but in discipline. You cannot command the storm, but you can steady your own hands as it rages. You cannot change how others act, but you can choose how you respond. And that choice, quiet, deliberate, unseen, is the essence of control. When you chase control over others, you become their prisoner. Your peace depends on their behavior, your happiness on their compliance. You hand them the power to disturb you, disappoint you, destroy you. But when you master yourself, you become untouchable. Anger, fear, jealousy, they no longer dictate your actions. You move with intention, not impulse. You speak with precision, not reaction. Control is not about suppressing emotion. It's about directing it. It's learning to hold the knife by the handle instead of the blade. The irony is that those who control themselves often influence others the most. Calmness commands respect, restraint breeds trust, and consistency inspires. But this influence comes naturally, never forced. The moment you stop trying to control people, you gain real power, the kind that cannot be taken away. Self-mastery is the foundation of freedom. The world will always test your patience, provoke your ego, and tempt your pride. But if you can govern your inner world, no external chaos can overthrow you. Knowledge isolates. The more you know, the further you drift from the comfort of ignorance. Knowledge expands the mind, but often shrinks your circle, because understanding too deeply means seeing what others overlook. And once seen, it cannot be unseen. The world that once felt simple becomes layered, fragile, and painfully transparent. Conversations that once thrilled you start to feel shallow. Laughter that once bonded you begins to echo with hollowness. You start noticing the cracks in people's logic, the illusions in their beliefs, and the masks they wear to survive. And slowly, you realize that awareness is both a gift and a wound. Ignorance connects because it is easy. It asks no questions, demands no reflection, and lets people stay comfortably blind together. Knowledge, however, divides. It separates those who seek from those who settle. The more you learn, the less you can pretend, and the more alien you become to those who still can. You stop belonging to the crowd because truth rarely gathers followers. It gathers solitude. The wise often walk alone, not by choice, but by consequence. They carry the weight of understanding in a world that celebrates distraction. It is not arrogance that isolates them. It is perception. They see too clearly, feel too deeply, and question too much. Knowledge awakens you, but awakening has a cost. The comfort of illusion, the warmth of unawareness, the closeness of the crowd. The farther you travel into truth, the lonelier the path becomes. But the air, though thin, is finally real. Deception moves crowds. Truth stirs the soul, but deception commands the masses. People do not follow what is real. They follow what feels real. The power of deception lies in its ability to shape emotion, to twist perception until illusion feels safer than reality. Crowds crave certainty, not truth, and the deceiver understands this better than anyone. With the right tone, the right story, and the right mask, lies become comfort, and comfort becomes control. Throughout history, deception has built empires, started wars, and crowned kings. The masses are moved not by reason, but by narrative. They believe what aligns with their desires and fears, not what challenges them. A deceiver plays the heart before the mind, crafting words that bypass logic and strike the instinct. The truth may free, but the lie gathers followers faster because it offers simplicity in a world that terrifies them with complexity. Deception thrives where truth is inconvenient. It feeds on the human need to belong, to believe, to hope. People will defend a lie that flatters them long after they've forgotten the truth that confronted them. The deceiver does not need to be brilliant, only confident, empathetic, and patient. Once emotion takes root, reason dies quietly. And yet, deception reveals something haunting. Our weakness is not ignorance, but comfort. We would rather be beautifully lied to than painfully awakened. That is why deception moves crowds. It speaks to what they want to feel, not what they need to know. The crowd doesn't seek truth, it seeks reassurance, and the deceiver gives it with a smile that feels like salvation. Vanity drives humanity. At the core of every ambition, every invention, every civilization ever built lies a single, glittering truth. Humanity is driven by the need to be seen. Vanity is the pulse beneath progress, the hidden engine behind art, wealth, power, and even love. People crave recognition more than meaning. They want to matter in the eyes of others, to be admired, envied, remembered. Every triumph, every display of greatness carries within it the quiet hope of validation. We rise not only to achieve, but to be witness achieving. Vanity is the fire that makes humans restless. It fuels the desire to create beauty, to conquer impossibility, to leave behind something that whispers, "I was here." Yet that same fire burns. It turns self-worth into a performance, morality into marketing, purpose into spectacle. We shape ourselves into what will be admired, not what is authentic, because the gaze of others feels like proof of existence. And so humanity lives in a hall of mirrors, each person reflecting another's longing to be adored. Even compassion is often vanity in disguise. People help to feel good, love to feel needed, give to feel noble. It is not evil, it is human. For vanity, though shallow in appearance, reveals a deeper hunger to transcend insignificance. It is the ache of mortality dressed in pride, the fear of being forgotten, hidden behind a smile. Humanity moves forward because it cannot bear the thought of disappearing unseen. Vanity, for all its deceit, keeps the world turning, gloriously, tragically, endlessly. Expect betrayal. Trust is the most fragile form of courage, and betrayal is its inevitable shadow. To live fully is to open yourself to both, because where loyalty exists, betrayal always lingers nearby, waiting for its moment. Most people cling to the illusion that sincerity guarantees safety, that love protects from deceit, that good intentions shield from harm. But life has a crueler truth. Everyone is loyal until their interests change. Betrayal is not an exception. It is a certainty, written quietly into human nature. When you expect betrayal, you are not becoming cynical. You are becoming wise. You stop giving blind trust and start giving measured trust. You learn to read silence, to notice inconsistencies, to feel when words and actions drift apart. You stop bleeding for those who only needed your warmth, not your worth. Betrayal teaches discernment. It cuts away naivety and replaces it with perception. It teaches you that loyalty cannot be demanded, only observed over time, and that even then, it can vanish without warning. Expecting betrayal doesn't mean withdrawing from love. It means entering it with eyes open. It means understanding that people act from self-preservation before principle, and that sometimes even those who love you will choose themselves first. When you expect it, betrayal loses its power to break you. It merely reveals what was hidden. Painful, yes, but clarifying. For those who can look betrayal in the face without bitterness, something shifts. They stop chasing permanence in people and start finding strength in themselves. Envy is confession. Envy is not about others. It is a mirror reflecting what we secretly crave but cannot claim. Every time envy stirs within us, it whispers an unspoken truth. I want what they have. It is the soul's involuntary confession, revealing the shape of our deepest desires and the wounds of our own inadequacy. We envy not because others possess something extraordinary, but because their existence reminds us of what we lack, what we fail to become, or what we fear we never will. Envy strips away pretense. It exposes the fragile scaffolding of pride we build around ourselves. When you feel it burn, it is not hatred. It is longing wearing the mask of bitterness. The success you resent is the life you once imagined for yourself. The beauty you scorn is the mirror of your own insecurity. The happiness you dismiss is the peace you haven't found. Envy makes us liars in public and beggars in private, trapped between admiration and resentment. But within that poison lies revelation. To feel envy is to glimpse your truest hunger, unfiltered and raw. It shows you where your soul still aches to grow. The tragedy is that most people deny it, pretending to be above it, while it silently consumes them. Yet the wise do not hide from envy. They study it. They listen to its confession and use it as a guide, turning jealousy into direction. For envy, when faced honestly, is not shameful. It is instructive. It tells you exactly who you wish to be, if only you were brave enough to admit it. People love comfort, not truth. Truth is raw, sharp, and often cruel. It strips away illusions, shatters false peace, and forces the soul to confront what it has long avoided. Most people don't want that. They want comfort. They crave reassurance, softness, something that tells them they're fine just as they are. Comfort soothes the ego, truth challenges it, and between the two, the heart almost always chooses the gentler lie over the brutal honesty that could set it free. People say they want honesty, but what they really seek is validation disguised as truth. They don't want to see their flaws. They want to be told those flaws don't matter. They don't want to face reality. They want to feel safe within their delusions. Truth demands transformation, and transformation demands pain. Comfort, on the other hand, demands nothing but surrender, a slow, silent decay into complacency. That's why truth-tellers are often outcasts. They disrupt the dream. They hold up mirrors where others want curtains. When you speak truth, you disturb the fragile peace built on denial, and people will resent you for it. But comfort, though warm, is temporary. It rots beneath the surface. Truth, though cold, endures. Those who choose truth trade belonging for clarity, warmth for awareness, illusion for freedom. It is not an easy exchange, but it is the only one that leads to awakening. For comfort keeps you asleep, but truth, once seen, refuses to let you dream again. Hide your motives. Power belongs not to the loud, but to the unreadable. When people cannot see your intentions, they cannot predict your moves, and when they cannot predict your moves, they cannot control you. To hide your motives is not deceit, it is defense. Transparency is a luxury for the naive. Those who bear their ambitions to the world invite sabotage, envy, and resistance. Human nature reacts to intent. Once your goal is visible, others either compete with it, corrupt it, or quietly work to undermine it. Mystery, however, disarms. It makes others project their own assumptions while you remain untouched behind the veil. The greatest tacticians, leaders, and manipulators all share one truth. They reveal nothing until the moment of execution. Silence and ambiguity are their weapons. When your motives are hidden, your power multiplies, because uncertainty breeds hesitation. People cannot strike what they cannot define. Even kindness, when strategic, loses its potency once the reason behind it is known. The unknown keeps others guessing, aligning, adapting to shadows that you alone understand. To hide your motives is to move like water, shapeless, adaptable, unstoppable. It allows you to operate freely while others exhaust themselves trying to interpret your silence. Those who speak too soon lose leverage. Those who show their hand invite interference. In a world where everyone is trying to read your mind, obscurity becomes dominance. Let your actions be seen, but never your intentions. For once the world knows what drives you, it knows where to strike. Self-sufficiency is power. The moment you stop needing others to complete you, you become unstoppable. Self-sufficiency is not isolation. It is independence of spirit, the quiet strength of knowing that your survival, peace, and purpose do not hinge on anyone else's approval or assistance. The world teaches dependency early. Dependence on love for validation, on success for worth, on companionship for meaning. But those who rely too heavily on others inevitably collapse when those foundations shift. True power begins when you realize that everything you need already lives within you. Self-sufficiency is the highest form of freedom. It is waking up and knowing that your happiness cannot be taken because it does not belong to anyone else. It's the ability to walk away from comfort, from attention, from anything that compromises your integrity, because you no longer trade authenticity for acceptance. When you are self-sufficient, loneliness transforms into solitude, rejection into redirection, and loss into liberation. You become unshakable because your stability is internal, not circumstantial. Most people mistake dependence for connection, but connection only thrives between whole beings. Self-sufficiency allows you to love without clinging, to give without expecting, to stand beside others without needing to lean on them. It is not coldness, it is confidence. It's the understanding that needing less from the world allows you to give more to it. Power does not come from control or wealth or influence. It comes from mastery of the self. When you no longer beg the world to sustain you, you become what it cannot break. Freedom means needing less. Freedom is not found in abundance. It is found in absence. The fewer things you need to feel whole, the more unshakable your peace becomes. Most people chase freedom through accumulation, more money, more status, more validation, believing that having everything will finally make them untouchable. But every desire becomes a leash, every attachment a quiet chain. The more you need, the more you can be controlled. True freedom begins the moment you realize how little you actually require to feel alive. Needing less is not poverty, it is power. It is the kind of strength that cannot be bought or taken away because it does not depend on circumstance. When your happiness no longer hangs on possessions, approval, or outcomes, the world loses its hold on you. You stop begging life to give you meaning and start creating it from within. You stop fearing loss because you understand that nothing essential can truly be taken from you. The modern world confuses comfort with freedom, but comfort without restraint breeds dependence. To be free is to walk lightly, to live without the weight of endless wanting. Simplicity becomes liberation, detachment becomes clarity, and solitude becomes peace. When you need less, every breath feels like abundance. Every moment becomes enough. Freedom is not in owning everything. It's in being owned by nothing. And when you finally reach that state, silence feels rich, emptiness feels full, and you realize you were never lacking, only distracted. Most friendships are trades. Beneath the warmth of companionship lies an unspoken contract. Give and take, benefit and return. Most friendships, no matter how sincere they seem, are transactions wearing the mask of affection. People are drawn to what serves them: comfort, validation, attention, connection. Few love you for who you are. Most love you for how you make them feel. Friendship, in its common form, is an exchange of emotional currency. You offer laughter, support, or understanding, and in return, you receive belonging. It feels pure, but beneath it flows the current of self-interest that drives nearly every bond. This is not cruelty. It is human nature. We seek mirrors that reflect our worth, voices that echo our pain, and hands that lift us when we falter. But when the balance breaks, when one gives more than they receive, or when usefulness fades, the friendship begins to fracture. You learn that loyalty often has conditions, that affection can expire, and that love, when unreciprocated, quickly turns into silence. The rarest friendships are those built not on trade, but on truth, connections that remain even when there is nothing left to offer. Yet most never reach that depth because honesty threatens the illusion of equality. So we continue to trade: attention for validation, secrets for trust, presence for reassurance. And though these exchanges keep us from loneliness, they also remind us that genuine connection is a luxury few ever taste. In the end, friendship often survives not on love, but on mutual need. Happiness is the absence of pain. Happiness is not found in pleasure, success, or joy. It is found in relief. It is the quiet exhale after suffering, the stillness that follows chaos, the rare moment when the ache fades long enough for peace to slip in unnoticed. Most people mistake happiness for excitement, for the rush of achievement or affection, but those are only distractions dressed as joy. True happiness is simpler, quieter, almost fragile. It exists only when pain steps aside, when the noise of fear, regret, and longing grows silent enough for serenity to breathe. Pain is the default rhythm of existence. Every living thing endures loss, hunger, disappointment. We are built to suffer, to adapt, to keep moving through the ache. That is why happiness feels so fleeting. It is not something we sustain, but something we stumble upon when the suffering pauses. It is not presence, it is absence. The absence of fear, of longing, of need. In those rare moments, we realize how heavy pain had been only when it finally lifts. This is why people chase comfort, love, success, not for their own sake, but for the illusion that they might end the pain. Yet the truth is merciless. Happiness cannot be possessed, only experienced in the gaps between suffering. To live is to hurt, and to find happiness is to notice the silence between wounds. It is the soft pulse beneath the noise, the stillness between heartbeats, the fragile reminder that even in a world built on pain, peace can still be felt, if only for a moment. Expect nothing. Stay free. Expectation is the silent thief of peace. It binds your happiness to outcomes you can't control, to people who will change, and to futures that may never arrive. Every expectation is a contract written in invisible ink, one that the world never signs. The more you expect, the more you suffer, because reality rarely bends to desire. Freedom begins the moment you stop demanding that life deliver what you think you deserve. To expect nothing is not to give up. It is to let go. When you release expectation, disappointment loses its teeth. You start moving through life lighter, unburdened by what should be, open to what is. Gratitude replaces entitlement, and curiosity replaces control. You stop measuring moments by what they give you and start seeing them for what they are: temporary, imperfect, real. The absence of expectation is not emptiness, it is clarity. It's the quiet understanding that nothing is owed, and yet everything experienced is a gift. People who expect nothing cannot be manipulated. Their peace cannot be bargained with. Their emotions cannot be held hostage. They love without demanding love in return, give without keeping score, and walk away without bitterness when things end. Expectation is a cage, freedom its opposite. The less you cling to how life must unfold, the more it reveals its beauty in ways you never imagined. When you expect nothing, you are no longer waiting, you are living, and in that state, you become untouchable. Truth offends. Truth does not comfort, it cuts. It peels back the layers of illusion we wrap ourselves in and exposes what we would rather not see. That is why people fear it, resent it, and attack those who speak it. The truth does not bend to feelings or ego. It stands indifferent, unyielding, and pure. And because it shows us our weaknesses, our hypocrisy, our hidden motives, it feels like an insult when all it offers is clarity. Most people don't hate lies. They hate the mirror that truth holds before them. The moment truth is spoken, defenses rise. You can see it in their eyes, the flicker of recognition followed by denial. Because to accept truth means to change, and change demands pain. It's easier to be offended than to evolve. So people mock the messenger, dismiss the facts, or twist the words until they sound less threatening. But the sting of truth is the proof of its power. Lies are gentle anesthetics. Truth is the surgery that heals through pain. The world rewards diplomacy over honesty, comfort over courage. Yet truth remains the only path to genuine freedom. It burns away pretense and forces the soul to confront itself without disguise. To be offended by truth is to cling to illusion. To embrace it is to awaken. And though it may wound your pride, it will cleanse your spirit, because every truth that offends you is showing you the lie you still live by. The wise detach. Wisdom is not found in clinging, it is found in release. The wise understand that attachment is the root of suffering, that everything grasped too tightly eventually turns to pain. People cling to possessions, relationships, beliefs, even their own identities, hoping to find permanence in a world built on impermanence. But the truth is cruel and freeing at once. Nothing stays. The more you hold on, the more you bleed when it leaves. Detachment, then, is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the art of loving without owning, caring without depending, giving without expecting. The wise detach because they have seen the chaos of attachment. They know that desire chains the mind and fear guards the lock. Detachment is not apathy. It is mastery over emotion. It means seeing things as they are, not as we wish them to be. To detach is to walk through fire without letting it consume you, to face loss without collapsing, to witness beauty without needing to possess it. When you detach, you stop being pulled by every storm. You become still, unshaken, quietly powerful. Others will call you distant, but in truth, you are free. Free from the need to control, free from the terror of losing what was never yours to keep. Detachment is strength disguised as serenity. It is not the absence of feeling, but the presence of understanding. The wise do not escape life. They simply refuse to be enslaved by it. Pain purifies. Pain is the fire that burns away illusion. It strips you of comfort, of vanity, of everything you thought defined you, until only what is real remains. In the beginning, pain feels cruel, an intruder tearing through the fragile walls of certainty. But as it deepens, it reveals its true nature, a teacher disguised as torment. Through suffering, you are forced to confront the raw truth of who you are, what you value, and what you can endure. Pain has no patience for masks. It shatters them, leaving you face to face with the parts of yourself you've long avoided. Nothing cleanses the soul like agony. Joy decorates, but pain transforms. It purges arrogance, dissolves delusion, and replaces innocence with depth. Those who have never suffered may appear whole, but they lack weight. Their smiles are untested, their compassion unearned. Pain gives meaning to empathy. It forges strength through surrender. It is only when life breaks you that you learn what cannot be broken. Most run from pain, trying to numb it, drown it, or bury it beneath distractions. But every escape only delays the cleansing. Pain must be felt to be survived, and survival is what sanctifies it. It refines the soul the way fire refines metal, by melting away impurity until only resilience remains. You do not emerge the same, you emerge distilled, lighter, sharper, truer. For every wound that heals leaves behind a scar, not as a mark of damage, but as a signature of transformation. Pain does not destroy, it baptizes. Anger is weakness. Anger wears the mask of strength, but beneath it lies fear, insecurity, and loss of control. It feels powerful in the moment, a surge of energy, a flash of righteousness, but it is the strength of a storm, not of a mountain. It destroys faster than it defends. When anger rules you, logic collapses, judgment fades, and you become a puppet pulled by emotion. Those who can provoke you, control you. Every time you lash out, you hand them your power, proving that your peace can be stolen with a single word. True strength is restraint, the ability to feel the fire rise and choose stillness instead. It's not that the strong don't feel anger. They master it. They understand that anger is simply pain wearing armor, that beneath every outburst lies an unmet expectation, a hidden wound. To conquer anger is not to suppress it, but to understand it, to trace it back to its source, to see what it's trying to protect. When you do, it dissolves, and in its place grows clarity. The weak react, the strong respond. Anger clouds vision, making you strike blindly and regret deeply. But when you remain calm in the face of provocation, you unsettle those who expect it to control you. You become untouchable, not because you lack emotion, but because you command it. Power is not found in fury, it's found in composure. For anger burns hot and fast, but control, quiet, steady, and deliberate, burns forever. Avoid fools. Fools drain the spirit not with malice, but with ignorance. They waste your time, twist your words, and mistake your silence for agreement. A fool does not seek understanding. They seek validation for their own delusions. They argue not to learn, but to win. They confuse noise for knowledge and confidence for wisdom. To reason with them is to wrestle with shadows. You tire yourself while nothing changes. The fool thrives on attention, feeding off the energy of those who still believe they can fix stupidity with explanation. Avoiding fools is not arrogance, it is self-preservation. Your peace is too precious to be spent where reason is unwelcome. The fool will mock your depth, resent your calm, and drag you into their chaos just to feel taller. They crave reaction because it gives them relevance. But when you withdraw, when you refuse to play their game, their power dissolves. Silence in the face of ignorance is not weakness, it is mastery. The wise learn to choose their company as carefully as their thoughts. Energy is contagious, and a fool's presence infects the mind with noise and negativity. Walk with fools, and wisdom begins to sound strange. Walk alone, and clarity returns. The world is full of noise disguised as opinion, arrogance disguised as confidence, and ignorance disguised as truth. You owe it to your own sanity to step away, because fools cannot be taught, they can only be avoided, and sometimes walking away is the loudest form of intelligence. Few deserve honesty. Honesty is sacred, and not everyone is worthy of it. Truth is a blade, sharp, pure, and dangerous, and in the wrong hands, it becomes a weapon turned against you. Most people ask for honesty not because they seek truth, but because they crave validation. They want words that flatter their illusions, not ones that expose them. To be honest with everyone is to hand out pieces of your soul to those who will twist, judge, or exploit them. The wise learn early. Honesty must be earned, not given. Few can handle the weight of unfiltered truth. It shatters comfort, dismantles ego, and demands reflection. And most would rather be lied to than face their reflection in that light. People punish honesty when it does not serve their pride. They label it arrogance, cruelty, or betrayal. But honesty is not cruelty, it is clarity, and clarity terrifies those built on delusion. To tell the truth to all is naive. To tell it selectively is power. The strong know when to speak and when to remain silent, when truth liberates and when it destroys. Not everyone deserves to see the parts of you that are real, because few will protect them. So, you learn to measure your words, to guard your truths like secrets, to let only the worthy glimpse what lies behind your mask. For honesty is not a gift to the world, it is a privilege, and few ever earn it. Flattery deceives both ways. Flattery is a mirror made of smoke. It reflects nothing real, yet everyone loves to look into it. It deceives the giver as much as the receiver, binding both in a quiet transaction of illusion. The one who flatters believes they are in control, weaving words to influence, to charm, to gain favor. But in doing so, they become entangled in their own deceit, building relationships on foundations of pretense. The one who receives flattery, intoxicated by the sweetness of praise, mistakes manipulation for admiration and begins to believe a version of themselves that does not exist. Flattery feeds the ego, and the ego is always hungry. It blinds the praise, making them crave more until they depend on it for validation. The flattered start performing for approval, mistaking applause for affection, while the flatterer begins to believe in the power of their own lies. Both lose sight of truth, the giver to ambition, the receiver to pride, and when truth finally returns, it does so like a blade, cutting through the comfort of delusion. Real respect rarely comes wrapped in honeyed words. It comes in honesty that stings but strengthens. Flattery, though dressed in elegance, corrodes authenticity. It makes fools of both sides, the manipulator who overestimates their cunning, and the vain who mistake attention for worth. For in the end, flattery is a dance of deception, where both partners trip, one on their lies, the other on their vanity. Never argue with emotion. Emotion is not bound by logic. It is wildfire, not architecture. To argue with emotion is to shout into the wind, to wrestle with smoke, to try and reason with a storm. Once emotion takes hold, whether it's anger, fear, or pride, the mind is no longer searching for truth, only validation. People in that state don't want clarity. They want control. They don't want to understand. They want to win. The more you reason with emotion, the more it feeds on your energy, twisting your words until you become part of the chaos you tried to calm. Wisdom lies in stillness. When emotion floods a conversation, step back. Let silence do what logic cannot. Emotion burns itself out when it has nothing to ignite against. The moment you stop feeding it with reaction, it loses power. Control is not found in winning arguments, but in refusing to fight battles that cannot be won. You don't calm a storm by shouting at the rain. You wait, you watch, and when it passes, you speak truth into the calm that follows. The disciplined mind recognizes timing. Logic without patience becomes arrogance. Patience without logic becomes submission. But when you master both, emotion can never rule you. Never argue with emotion, yours or anyone else's. Observe it, understand it, and let it tire itself out. For the one who remains composed in the presence of chaos always wins, not through words, but through unwavering silence. Weak men seek approval. A weak man builds his worth on the eyes of others. His sense of self rises and falls with every nod, every compliment, every ounce of validation he can gather. He shapes himself to fit what others expect, wearing masks that please the crowd but betray his core. Approval becomes his addiction, and like all addictions, it consumes him quietly. He begins to confuse being liked with being valued, and acceptance with purpose. The moment the applause stops, his confidence collapses, because it was never built on truth, only on noise. Weak men fear rejection more than they fear regret. They would rather betray their beliefs than stand alone. They agree to what they despise, smile at what disgusts them, and bow to what breaks them, all to avoid the discomfort of disapproval. In chasing acceptance, they surrender power, because whoever grants them validation also owns them. Approval becomes a leash, and they wear it proudly, mistaking obedience for belonging. Strength, on the other hand, lives in defiance. The strong man seeks respect, not approval. He is willing to be disliked for being authentic, rather than loved for being false. He stands firm when others waver, guided not by applause but by conviction. And while the weak man fades with every opinion that shifts against him, the strong man grows sharper in solitude, unmoved, unbent, and free. For approval is the currency of the insecure, but integrity is the wealth of the strong. The strong endure solitude. Solitude is the test that breaks the weak and crowns the strong. To be alone is to face yourself without distraction, without noise, without the comforting lies that others provide. Most people fear it because solitude strips away the illusions they hide behind. But the strong, they walk into it willingly. They understand that solitude is not punishment, it is purification. It burns away dependency, vanity, and fear until only the core of one's being remains. In the silence of solitude, the strong confront their chaos. They meet the voices that others drown out with noise and learn to tame them. They discover that peace is not found in company. It is forged in the absence of it. When no one applauds, when no one understands, when the world forgets your name, you learn who you are without reflection or reward. That is strength, to remain whole in the void, unshaken, unneeding. The strong endure solitude because they no longer fear the echo of their own thoughts. They understand that loneliness is temporary, but self-mastery is eternal. While others chase belonging to escape themselves, the strong build kingdoms within their own silence. They become their own allies, their own guides, their own home. For solitude does not weaken those who embrace it. It refines them. It turns the fragile into the fearless, the restless into the resolute. And when they finally emerge from the quiet, they carry a power that no crowd can give and no loneliness can take away. Calm is control. Calm is not weakness. It is mastery. It is the art of holding steady when everything around you demands reaction. To stay calm is to own the moment while others are owned by it. When chaos erupts, most people panic. Their emotions hijack reason, and they lose themselves in noise. But calm is the silent rebellion against that chaos. It is power disguised as peace. The calm mind sees what the frantic one cannot. It listens while others shout, thinks while others tremble, and decides while others despair. Calm is not natural. It is forged. It is the product of discipline, pain, and restraint. It is the stillness learned after losing control too many times, the quiet earned through battles fought within. To remain calm when provoked, insulted, or cornered is not indifference. It is dominance. It means you no longer give your energy to what does not deserve it. You become untouchable, not because the world stops trying to shake you, but because you've learned that reaction is surrender. The calm person unnerves the aggressive, frustrates the manipulative, and commands the room without raising their voice. They know that emotion clouds precision, and silence disarms more effectively than rage. Calm is not the absence of feeling, it is the mastery of it. It is standing in the storm without becoming it. In a world addicted to haste and noise, calm is the final form of control, the quiet strength that bends chaos to its will while appearing untouched by it. People follow appearances. Humanity worships illusion. We are drawn not to truth, but to what looks like it. The world runs on surfaces, on confidence mistaken for competence, on beauty mistaken for virtue, on wealth mistaken for wisdom. People follow appearances because appearances promise certainty in a world that offers none. It is easier to trust what glitters than to question what lies beneath. Image is power, and perception often outweighs reality. The crowd does not ask, "Is it true?" It asks, "Does it look true?" Those who understand this rule the ones who don't. The polished voice commands the room. The expensive suit earns respect. The calm demeanor disguises chaos. It's not fairness. It's human nature. Appearances soothe the mind because they offer order where truth often offers discomfort. And so, we chase symbols of success, align with those who seem powerful, and ignore those whose value is quieter, harder to see. The world rarely rewards authenticity. It rewards presentation. But beneath this truth lies danger. When you begin to believe your own mask, you lose yourself to it. When you start following appearances instead of substance, you walk blind through a hall of mirrors, impressed by reflections, untouched by reality. The wise learn to see beyond the polish, to feel what the eyes cannot. They understand that appearance can open doors, but only substance can keep you inside. Those who can see past the surface walk freely, while the rest remain enslaved by illusion, worshiping shadows as if they were light. Detachment equals power. Power is not about control. It's about freedom from it. Detachment is the art of remaining unmoved when the world pulls at you with its chaos, desires, and expectations. It is the ability to stand in the middle of the storm and not be swept away by emotion or attachment. When you are detached, you see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. You stop reacting, stop clinging, stop begging life to bend to your will. And in that stillness, you become unshakable. Most people are ruled by attachment. They chase love, approval, success, believing their worth depends on what they hold. But attachment turns power into weakness. It makes you fragile because anything that can be taken from you owns a part of you. Detachment, on the other hand, makes you untouchable. When you no longer need outcomes, people, or validation, the world loses its leverage. You can walk away from what no longer serves you, not in bitterness, but in peace. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding for what you can't control. It's seeing clearly without drowning in emotion, loving without losing yourself, and acting without desperation. That calm is terrifying to those who depend on control, because nothing is more powerful than a soul that cannot be manipulated. The detached mind cannot be bribed, broken, or bound, and in that quiet independence lies the purest form of power there is. Freedom starts when caring ends. Freedom is not granted, it is reclaimed the moment you stop letting the world dictate your worth. The chains that bind most people are invisible, forged, not of metal but of concern. What will they think? Will they approve? Will they love me still? Caring too much is the quiet enslavement of the soul. It makes you dance to invisible strings, pulled by opinions, expectations, and fears. You live not for yourself, but for the approval of ghosts, parents, lovers, strangers whose judgment echoes louder than your own voice. True freedom begins when that noise fades, when you stop needing to be understood, liked, or accepted. When caring ends, peace begins. The need to impress, to justify, to belong, all dissolve into irrelevance. You no longer bend yourself to fit someone else's comfort. You act, speak, and choose without apology. This detachment is not coldness, it is liberation. It means you have finally stopped selling pieces of your soul for acceptance that never lasts. The world calls it arrogance. The wise know it as freedom. When you stop caring, you become unpredictable, untamed, unstoppable. No insult can wound you. No rejection can define you. No expectation can cage you. You move through life lighter, quieter, truer, no longer reacting, only being. For the moment you no longer care to please the world, you begin to live as if it were yours. Freedom doesn't come from escaping others. It comes from escaping the need for them. Mediocrity hates brilliance. Brilliance is a mirror that exposes the dullness of the ordinary, and mediocrity cannot bear its reflection. The brilliant shine without permission, and that light offends those who live comfortably in the shadows of sameness. Mediocrity despises brilliance, not because it harms them, but because it reminds them of what they could have been, what they chose not to pursue. It is easier to mock the exceptional than to confront one's own lack of courage, easier to call genius arrogance than to admit one's fear of failure. The mediocre craves safety. Brilliance threatens it. It disrupts the balance of conformity, challenges the herd, and dares to rise where others settle. And so, mediocrity retaliates, not with strength, but with subtle poison, criticism disguised as concern, indifference masked as humility, and collective judgment cloaked as fairness. They will call the brilliant lucky, pretentious, or obsessive, anything to justify their own stagnation. For to acknowledge true brilliance is to confess one's own complacency. Yet brilliance doesn't seek approval, it creates its own. It burns too fiercely to beg for acceptance from those afraid of the flame. The brilliant walk alone, misunderstood by the many, envied by the timid, and remembered by history. Mediocrity will always try to dim what it cannot match, to tear down what it cannot reach. But the tragedy of mediocrity is that it fights the very thing that could have awakened it. For brilliance, though hated, is not the enemy. It is the light that reveals how small comfort truly is. Pity is disguised pride. Pity often wears the face of compassion, but beneath its softness lies superiority. When you pity someone, you place yourself above them. You see their suffering not as shared humanity, but as evidence of your own strength, wisdom, or fortune. It feels like kindness, but it's tainted by comparison. Pity whispers, I would never fall that low. I know better. I'm lucky I'm not them. It feeds the ego under the illusion of empathy. True compassion lifts others as equals. Pity looks down while pretending to reach out. Pity is the safe emotion, the one that lets you feel generous without risking vulnerability. It keeps distance between you and the pain of others, ensuring that their struggle never becomes too real, too close. It comforts the pitier, not the pitied, and so people indulge in it, mistaking condescension for care. But pity does not heal. It humiliates. It freezes those who receive it in weakness, reminding them of what they lack and who they are not. The purest hearts do not pity. They understand. They look at another's suffering and see themselves reflected in it. There is no hierarchy in their empathy, only recognition. To replace pity with understanding is to destroy pride's disguise, to let compassion become what it was meant to be, not a gesture from above, but a connection across. Pride creates distance, understanding dissolves it. Only when you stop pitying others do you begin to truly see them. Expect nothing fair. Fairness is a story we tell ourselves to make chaos feel civilized. The world does not bend to justice. It bends to power, chance, and circumstance. To expect fairness is to invite heartbreak, because life does not distribute pain or reward by merit. Good people suffer. Honest ones are betrayed. Effort often dies unseen while arrogance is crowned. The universe owes you nothing, and the sooner you stop waiting for balance, the sooner you begin to live without illusion. Fairness is a comfort the naive cling to. It keeps them docile, whispering that if they play by the rules, things will even out. But the truth is brutal. The game has no referee. People cheat, lie, and take advantage, and the world keeps spinning. To expect fairness is to keep your heart chained to disappointment. The wise stop expecting the world to be just. They focus on being strong enough to survive its injustice. Freedom comes when you abandon the myth of fairness. You stop wasting energy on outrage and start building resilience. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "Try me." Fairness is an illusion. Reality is indifferent. The only justice that exists is the strength you create within yourself. When you stop expecting life to be fair, you stop being its victim. And in that moment, you gain something far greater than fairness. Power. Fear moves the masses. Fear is the most primitive and powerful force that governs human behavior. It shapes nations, builds religions, elects leaders, and drives entire civilizations to obey without question. Logic may whisper, but fear commands. It is the hand that turns crowds into herds, guiding them not with truth, but with terror. Fear makes people surrender freedom for safety, individuality for belonging, and reason for reassurance. It doesn't need to convince, it only needs to threaten. When fear speaks, the masses listen, because comfort matters more to them than courage. Every system of control is built on fear. Fear of loss, of punishment, of rejection, of death. It is the invisible leash around the human mind, pulling people wherever power directs. The masses do not move for ideals, they move for protection. They follow whoever promises security, even if it costs them their soul. That is why fear is the favorite tool of rulers, preachers, and demagogues. It unites faster than love and binds stronger than reason. But fear does more than control. It reveals. It shows what people truly value, what they will betray, what they will kneel for. The strong face fear and master it. The weak feel it and obey. Masses tremble because it is easier to be led than to stand alone. Fear has always been the great puppeteer, pulling the strings of humanity's heart. For as long as people crave safety more than truth, fear will rule them, and they will call their chains protection. Hide your strength until needed. Power that is seen too soon invites resistance. The moment you reveal the full extent of your strength, the world begins to measure you, fear you, and plot against you. Hidden strength, however, is untouchable. It moves silently beneath perception, waiting, watching, preparing. To hide your strength is not cowardice, it is strategy. The wise do not flaunt their power. They guard it like a weapon sheathed in calm. When strength is concealed, it gathers potency. When displayed, it begins to decay. Revealing power prematurely feeds the egos of others. It warns your enemies, alarms your rivals, and provokes the insecure. But unseen strength is a mystery that unsettles everyone. They sense it without knowing its form, and that uncertainty becomes your greatest advantage. The quiet person, the patient thinker, the restrained warrior, all hold a dominance that needs no declaration. They strike only when the moment demands it, and when they do, the impact is absolute. Restraint is the highest form of control, to have power and not display it, to endure provocation without reacting, to smile while calculating. All of this builds an aura that commands respect without demand. Those who rush to show their might seek validation. Those who conceal it seek victory. When strength is hidden, timing becomes your weapon, surprise your ally, and silence your armor. For the world underestimates what it cannot see, and that is where true power thrives, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal itself, unstoppable and undeniable. Pain clarifies reality. Pain strips away illusion. It tears through comfort, vanity, and self-deception until only truth remains. When life hurts, masks fall. The stories we tell ourselves, that we are in control, that others will stay, that happiness is permanent, shatter under the weight of suffering. Pain forces you to see the world not as you wish it to be, but as it is. It doesn't lie, it doesn't flatter, it doesn't protect your ego. It shows you who you are when everything else is taken away. In pain, priorities shift. What once seemed urgent becomes meaningless. What you ignored suddenly feels sacred. Pain exposes who truly cares, what truly matters, and how fragile everything really is. It reminds you that pleasure is fleeting and peace is something you build, not something you find. It humbles the proud and awakens the blind. The lessons learned in comfort rarely stay, but the ones carved in suffering never fade. Most resist pain, numbing it, running from it, pretending it isn't there. But avoidance only prolongs the illusion. When you face pain directly, it becomes a teacher. It burns away confusion, leaving behind a sharp, unfiltered awareness of life's reality. You begin to see people for who they are, yourself for who you've become, and existence for what it truly costs. Pain does not destroy clarity, it creates it. For only through suffering do our eyes adjust to the light of truth. Indifference conquers desire. Desire is fire. It burns, blinds, and binds. It pulls you toward what you think you need, whispering that peace lies just one possession, one person, one victory away. But the more you chase, the more enslaved you become. Desire feeds on your attention. It grows stronger with every thought you give it. Indifference is the water that extinguishes that flame. It is not apathy, it is mastery. It's the calm refusal to be ruled by craving, the quiet strength of wanting nothing, yet being capable of everything. When you stop needing, you start choosing. Indifference frees you from the tyranny of what if and if only. It teaches you that fulfillment does not come from obtaining, but from detaching. What once controlled you loses its power when you no longer react to it. The world runs on desire. People spend their lives chasing validation, love, wealth, revenge, but indifference stands above it all, unbothered, untouchable. It is the stillness that breaks temptation's grip and restores clarity where chaos once lived. Desire makes you a servant to circumstance. Indifference makes you sovereign. When nothing external can sway your peace, you become immovable. You can enjoy without needing, act without clinging, and give without fear of loss. That is true dominance, not over others, but over yourself. For the one who has mastered indifference cannot be seduced, cannot be broken, and cannot be controlled. In the silence of not needing, every desire kneels. Dependence is slavery. Dependence is the quiet death of freedom. The moment your peace, purpose, or power rests in something beyond your control, you become a servant to it. Whether it's a person, a paycheck, a habit, or a belief, what you cannot live without owns you. Most call it love, loyalty, or stability. But beneath those words often lies bondage, disguised as comfort. The world teaches dependence as safety, but it is the most beautiful prison of all, a place where the bars are made of need and the lock is your own fear of being alone. Dependence breeds weakness. It softens the will, dulls the mind, and convinces you that survival requires surrender. You begin to measure your worth by what you receive instead of what you create, by who stays rather than who you become. And when what you rely on falters, your entire sense of self crumbles with it. That is the curse of dependence. It makes your strength conditional. The strong know that attachment is a luxury and self-reliance is freedom. They build foundations within, not around. They love deeply but never desperately. They walk beside others, not behind them. To depend on nothing but your own spirit is to be untouchable, to move through loss, betrayal, or chaos without losing yourself. Dependence is slavery because it steals the one thing that makes life worth living, choice. And the moment you stop needing, the world no longer owns you. You own yourself. Confidence thrives in ignorance. The less one knows, the more certain they become. Ignorance breeds clarity, not because it understands truth, but because it is unburdened by doubt. The ignorant move through the world with conviction, untouched by complexity, unshaken by nuance. They believe absolutely, and that belief gives them a power that wisdom often dilutes. Knowledge humbles, ignorance inflates. The more you learn, the more you see how little you know, and that awareness steals the simplicity of certainty. Confidence born from ignorance is effortless. It does not hesitate. It does not second guess. It charges forward while the intelligence stands still, lost in thought. The paradox of life is that the world often rewards the bold more than the wise. Audacity impresses where understanding hesitates. Those who question themselves are overshadowed by those too blind to question anything at all, and so the loud are followed while the thoughtful are forgotten. But ignorance is a fragile foundation. Its confidence burns bright, then collapses under the weight of reality. True confidence, born from experience and understanding, is quieter, less dazzling, more enduring. It walks with awareness, not arrogance. Yet it is the ignorant who appear unstoppable because they have not yet seen how easily the ground can give way beneath them. In the end, ignorance gives confidence its spark, but wisdom gives it its spine. One blazes and fades, the other endures in silence. Proof that knowing less may make you louder, but only knowing more makes you unshakable. Conceal superiority. True superiority is silent. It does not need to announce itself because its presence speaks through composure, precision, and restraint. Those who feel the urge to prove their worth reveal their insecurity. Those who truly possess it have nothing to prove. Concealing superiority is not weakness, it is strategy. Power exposed invites envy, resistance, and challenge. Power concealed moves freely, unseen, unthreatened, and therefore unstoppable. When you display your strengths too openly, you awaken the defenses of others. Pride breeds resentment, and resentment breeds opposition. But when you remain humble, when you let others believe they hold the upper hand, you disarm their ego and gain influence without conflict. Superiority kept in silence becomes intelligence disguised as modesty, dominance hidden beneath grace. You win not by force, but by subtlety. To conceal superiority is also to master self-control. It takes strength to stay quiet when you could dominate, to hold back when you could humiliate, to allow ignorance its moment without needing to correct it. The wise understand that visibility is vulnerability, that the brightest flame attracts the most wind, so they move in shadows, letting results speak instead of words. The powerful do not seek recognition, they seek outcomes. Their silence confuses the arrogant and calms the wise. Concealed superiority is the ultimate elegance, a strength so refined it no longer needs validation. Those who know see it, those who don't never will, and that is precisely where its power lies. The crowd loves lies. The crowd does not seek truth, it seeks comfort, unity, and escape. Lies give them all three. A lie tells them what they want to hear, softens the edges of their guilt, and spares them the agony of thinking for themselves. Truth divides, lies unite. A lie can make the weak feel righteous, The ignorant feel wise, and the lost feel found. That is why the crowd clings to illusion even when reality screams in its face. The truth is lonely, but a lie comes dressed in applause. The crowd loves lies because lies are easy. They ask for no courage, no confrontation, no self-reflection. They tell people they are good even when they're not, that they understand even when they don't. The truth demands change. Lies let people stay the same. And in a world terrified of discomfort, comfort is worshipped more than integrity. The louder the lie, the more it spreads, because people do not verify what flatters them. They repeat it. To speak truth to the crowd is to become their enemy. They will call you cruel, arrogant, cynical, anything to protect the dream they've built from deception. But lies are fragile things. They rot the soul even as they soothe it. The crowd may celebrate its illusions today, but when the mirage fades, when the comfort collapses, the silence that follows will belong to the few who stood alone, holding the truth, while the rest drown in their beautiful delusions. Isolation reveals truth. When the world falls silent and the crowd fades, what remains is reality, raw, unfiltered, and undeniable. Isolation strips away the noise that blinds you, the opinions that shape you, and the distractions that numb you. It leaves you face to face with yourself, with no one left to impress, no masks left to wear. That's why most fear solitude, not because it's empty, but because it's honest. In isolation, the illusions crumble, the false friendships, the borrowed beliefs, the fragile identities built on validation. What's left is truth, naked, merciless, liberating. Isolation is the mirror the world avoids. It doesn't flatter, it exposes. It shows you what you truly love, what you truly fear, and what you've been running from beneath the noise of constant company. It reveals how much of your life has been performance, how much of your confidence depends on being seen. In the quiet, you begin to hear the faint, ancient voice of your own soul, the one drowned out by applause and distraction. The truth that isolation uncovers is not always kind. It may show you your weakness, your loneliness, your illusions, but it also shows you your strength, the resilience beneath the pain, the clarity behind the chaos. To face yourself without escape is the highest act of courage. For those who endure it, isolation becomes transformation. The truth it reveals is not found in the world outside, but in the silence within, where everything false finally dies and everything real begins to breathe. Weakness loves company. Weakness seeks comfort in the familiar, and nothing is more familiar than another broken soul. The weak cling to each other not out of love, but out of mutual validation. Misery craves reflection. It wants to see its own fear, its own excuses, its own surrender mirrored in someone else. When two weak spirits meet, they build a sanctuary of stagnation, where accountability dies and self-pity thrives. They call it understanding, but it is really permission. Permission to stay small, to remain unchallenged, to avoid the pain of growth. Strength isolates because it demands elevation. The strong climb alone, while the weak gather below, whispering about how unfair the world is. Weakness does not hate strength, it envies it, then disguises that envy as judgment. It mocks ambition, calls confidence arrogance, and brands independence as coldness. It must do this because to face strength honestly would be to confront its own failures, and so weakness builds its own tribe, a chorus of excuses, a comfort in mediocrity, a shared resistance to change. But companionship built on weakness is a slow poison. It feels safe while it quietly kills potential. Those who remain surrounded by the fragile eventually forget their own strength. True growth begins the moment you step away from that comfort, when you stop seeking those who soothe your excuses and start seeking those who challenge them. For weakness may love company, but strength is born in solitude, and only there does the soul remember how to stand tall again. Most goodness is ego. What people call goodness is often just self-interest wearing a halo. Acts of kindness, generosity, and virtue are rarely pure. They are performances carefully crafted to feed the ego's quiet hunger for worth and admiration. The human heart craves to feel important, to be seen as noble, righteous, compassionate, and so most goodness is not born from love. It is born from the desire to appear loving. People do good not because they are selfless, but because they cannot bear the guilt or insignificance of being ordinary. Even charity often carries a shadow. The giver needs to feel like a savior. The helper needs to feel powerful. The forgiver needs to feel superior. Good deeds become currency for validation, proof of moral status, a way to decorate the soul for display. The ego hides behind kindness because it is the one disguise that no one questions. But beneath the smiles and the sermons, most virtue is a mirror reflecting back one's need to be admired. True goodness leaves no trail. It acts in silence, without audience or reward, without the need to be remembered. It gives because it cannot help but give, and disappears before gratitude can find it. Yet such purity is rare because it requires the death of ego, and few are willing to vanish in the act of love. Most would rather be praised for doing good than forgotten for being good. For in the end, ego does not seek virtue. It seeks applause dressed as morality. Strength loves silence. Real strength doesn't shout. It listens. It doesn't demand attention. It commands it quietly. The strongest souls are often the most silent, not because they have nothing to say, but because they have nothing to prove. Silence is the language of mastery. It holds what words can't carry: discipline, patience, understanding. Noise is for those still trying to convince the world of their worth. The strong no longer need to. They let their presence speak where their voice no longer must. Silence is power disguised as peace. It allows you to see what chaos hides, to observe without reacting, to understand before acting. While others waste energy explaining themselves, justifying, defending, the strong conserve theirs. They know that every unnecessary word leaks control, and every reaction exposes weakness. In silence, strength grows sharper, heavier, more deliberate. It teaches restraint, the ability to wait, to endure, to move only when it matters. The world mistakes loudness for confidence, aggression for authority, but true power never performs. It moves with precision, not volume. The lion doesn't roar to prove it's a lion. It roars to end the conversation. Strength loves silence because silence holds control. It reveals nothing, hides everything, and keeps others guessing. Those who can remain silent in a world that constantly demands noise possess something rare: sovereignty over themselves. For when you no longer need to be heard to feel powerful, you finally are. Self-control is ultimate power. Power is not about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. The man who cannot govern his impulses is a slave, no matter how high he climbs. Anger controls him. Lust controls him. Greed controls him. Every temptation becomes a chain. Every emotion a command. True power begins the moment you stop reacting and start choosing. Self-control is the discipline to pause when the world provokes you, to think when your blood screams, to stay still when chaos begs for your attention. It is the quiet force that bends the world without ever needing to raise its voice. Most people mistake indulgence for freedom. They believe doing whatever they want makes them powerful, but indulgence is weakness dressed as liberty. The one who must satisfy every craving has already surrendered his will. Self-control, in contrast, is liberation from compulsion. It allows you to move through life untouched by manipulation or impulse, because nothing outside you can command what you own within. In moments of anger, restraint is strength. In moments of desire, patience is dominance. In moments of fear, calm is courage. Self-control turns chaos into clarity and emotion into energy. It transforms reaction into mastery and noise into silence. The one who controls himself controls his fate, because discipline outlasts passion and stillness outpowers rage. Power over others is fleeting, but power over yourself makes you untouchable, unshaken, and utterly free. Time is your real wealth. Time is the only currency that can never be earned back, and yet it is the one people spend most carelessly. Every moment that passes is a piece of your life traded away, often for things that mean nothing, for people who don't stay, for approval that fades. Money can be replaced, possessions can be regained, but time only moves in one direction, silently taking with it every chance you ignore. The cruel truth is that you are dying in installments, second by second, and most never realize it until the account is empty. The illusion of wealth blinds the world. People chase gold while wasting hours, forgetting that those hours are the gold. They sacrifice years to build comfort for a future that never feels like enough. They call it ambition, but it is often fear. Fear of stillness, fear of meaninglessness. But when the noise stops, when youth fades, when the clock grows louder, the truth hits with brutal clarity. Time was the treasure, and you spent it trying to buy what you already had. The wise guard their time like a fortress. They know every yes is a withdrawal, every distraction a theft. They understand that time is not measured in hours, but in presence, in how deeply you live the moments you have. When you see time as wealth, you stop wasting it on what drains you and start investing it in what expands you. For in the end, your fortune is not what you've earned, it's what you've lived. Freedom costs detachment. Freedom is never free. It demands the surrender of attachment. To be truly free, you must loosen your grip on people, possessions, and expectations. Every bond, no matter how comforting, carries a hidden price. Dependence. The more you cling, the less you move. The world tells you that connection is everything, but it rarely tells you how easily connection becomes captivity. Freedom is not gained through rebellion or escape. It's earned through release. Detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. It is seeing everything you love without needing to own it, touching life lightly enough that nothing can shatter you when it changes shape. To be detached is not to stop caring, but to stop clinging. It's the ability to let go without resentment, to lose without collapsing, to walk away without regret. Every ounce of freedom you gain is measured by how much you're willing to lose. Those who fear detachment mistake it for emptiness, but it is the opposite. Detachment creates space, space for peace, for truth, for self. When you are no longer chained to outcomes, you can finally act without fear. You love more purely because you no longer love to possess. You live more deeply because you no longer live to hold. Freedom begins the moment you stop demanding that life stay still. Everything you hold too tightly will eventually control you. The wise understand this, and so they practice the art of release, for only the detached can ever truly be free. Everyone wears a mask. No one shows the world their true face. We learn early that honesty is dangerous, that truth makes us vulnerable, and vulnerability invites pain. So we build masks, layer by layer, each one designed to protect, impress, or belong. The confident smile that hides insecurity, the calm voice that muffles rage, the charm that conceals exhaustion. Everyone performs, not because they are false, but because being real feels unsafe. The world rewards the mask. It praises composure, not chaos, beauty, not scars, image, not authenticity. The tragedy is that we forget where the mask ends and we begin. We wear it so long it fuses with our identity, and soon we are strangers to ourselves. The mask becomes comfort, a shield that keeps rejection away, even as it smothers our truth. We crave connection, yet hide the very parts of us that could make it real. The result is a world full of performers, applauding each other while dying for something genuine behind the curtain. But masks don't just protect, they imprison. Every lie you wear to be accepted becomes another lock on your freedom. Only when you dare to remove it, to risk being seen in all your imperfect truth, do you rediscover your soul. Most will never do it. They fear exposure more than emptiness. But those who do find a rare peace, because to be unmasked is terrifying, yes, but it's the only way to finally breathe without pretending. Emotion clouds judgment. Emotion is both the spark of humanity and its greatest blindfold. It distorts reason, bends truth, and turns clarity into chaos. When emotion takes the reins, logic becomes its servant, justifying what the heart demands, not what the mind knows. Anger convinces you that destruction is justice. Fear whispers that safety is more important than freedom. Love blinds you to red flags, while pride deafens you to wisdom. Emotion doesn't ask for truth, it asks for relief. And in that hunger to feel right instead of be right, judgment collapses. The world worships passion, but passion without discipline is madness. Emotion paints your perception in colors too vivid to see clearly. It magnifies small slights into betrayals, small doubts into disasters. It drives people to chase ghosts, to fight battles already lost, to destroy what they love in the name of how they feel. The mind sees what is, emotion sees what it wants to be. That difference is the line between clarity and ruin. The wise do not kill emotion, they master it. They feel deeply but decide deliberately. They know that stillness is strength, that the calm mind sees the battlefield long after the emotional one has burned it down. To rise above emotion is not to become cold, but to become clear. For emotion may make you human, but only control makes you powerful. Judgment ruled by emotion is blindness disguised as conviction, and until you learn to silence the storm within, you will mistake its thunder for truth. Control emotion, control outcome. Emotion is the first chain that binds the mind. Those who cannot master their feelings become servants to them, reacting instead of directing, breaking instead of bending. Every outburst, every panic, every flash of anger is a moment where power slips away. Control your emotions and the world bends differently around you. It is not the strongest who win, but the calmest. The one who stays composed while others unravel dictates the rhythm of every interaction. Anger blinds, fear paralyzes, and excitement distracts. All emotions are weapons that can turn against you if left unchecked, but when harnessed, they become tools of immense precision. The disciplined mind feels deeply but acts deliberately. It channels emotion, never drowns in it. Control does not mean suppression, it means direction, choosing when to let fire burn and when to let it rest as embers. The one who governs their inner storm shapes the outer world with effortless force. In conflict, the calm win. In persuasion, the collected convince. In chaos, the composed survive. Emotional control is the silent art of dominance, the ability to respond with clarity while others choke on impulse. When you command yourself, you command circumstance. Those ruled by emotion are predictable. Those who rule emotion are untouchable. Control the waves within, and no tide outside can move you. For mastery begins not with strength of body or mind, but with the stillness of the heart beneath both. Pleasure deceives. Pleasure is the sweetest liar life has to offer. It whispers promises of fulfillment, of escape, of meaning, but it never delivers more than a fleeting illusion. It lures you with warmth only to leave you cold once it fades. The pursuit of pleasure feels like freedom, yet it is often the most subtle form of bondage. It traps you in cycles of craving, convincing you that satisfaction lies just one indulgence away. Pleasure doesn't satisfy desire, it multiplies it. What begins as comfort quickly becomes dependence. The deception of pleasure lies in its disguise as happiness. It mimics joy, but it lacks depth. It numbs instead of heals, distracts instead of fulfills. In pleasure, the mind grows weaker, chasing sensations instead of purpose. You forget the difference between peace and relief. Pleasure offers relief. Peace requires discipline. And when the pleasure ends, as it always does, it leaves behind the emptiness it momentarily concealed. Those who live for pleasure serve it like a master, forever chasing, never resting. The wise see through its mask. They enjoy pleasure but do not worship it. They taste it without letting it consume them. They know that pleasure's glow blinds the careless, making them mistake distraction for direction, comfort for contentment. Pleasure deceives because it tells you life should feel good. But the truth is, meaning rarely feels good. It feels real. And realness, though harder to endure, is the only thing that doesn't disappear when the pleasure fades. Desire binds. Desire is the invisible rope that pulls the soul into servitude. It begins softly, a thought, a hunger, a hope, and before you know it, it tightens around your heart. What you want begins to own you. Every dream becomes a chain, every craving a command. You start to measure your worth by how close you are to attaining it, forgetting that the pursuit itself has already enslaved you. Desire promises fulfillment, but it delivers dependency. The more you chase, the more you need, and the more the fire grows beyond control. It is not the object of desire that traps you. It is the longing itself. It rewires your mind to believe happiness exists somewhere outside of you. It whispers that peace lies in the next achievement, the next lover, the next victory. But each satisfaction fades, leaving behind the hollow echo of more. Desire never ends. It only transforms. And as long as you obey it, freedom remains just out of reach. To break free is not to stop wanting. It is to stop needing. When you no longer cling, desire loses its grip. You begin to act, not out of desperation, but out of choice. Detachment is not indifference, it is sovereignty. It is the quiet realization that nothing you can gain will make you whole, because wholeness was never missing. Desire binds, but awareness cuts the rope, and in that release, you rediscover the calm power of wanting nothing, yet having everything. Simplicity is strength. Simplicity is not the absence of depth, it is the refinement of it. It is the ability to strip away the unnecessary until only truth remains. The world worships complexity, mistaking confusion for intelligence and noise for importance. People clutter their minds, their lives, and their words, hoping the chaos will make them seem profound. But strength lies not in accumulation, it lies in clarity. To live simply, to think clearly, to act directly, these are signs of mastery, not weakness. Simplicity requires courage. It means letting go of what dazzles but doesn't matter, what impresses but doesn't fulfill. It means cutting through the fog of opinion, ego, and fear until you stand face to face with what is real. Most people can't bear that because simplicity exposes truth, and truth demands change. The strong, however, embrace it. They understand that simplicity sharpens focus, strengthens will, and breeds peace. In simplicity, nothing distracts you from purpose. Look at nature. The mountain does not explain its strength. The river does not justify its flow. Power doesn't need ornament. It needs direction. The same is true for people. The simple mind is steady. The simple life is light. And the simple path, though narrow, is free of wasted motion. Simplicity is the art of subtracting until only power remains. It is not emptiness, it is essence. And in a world drowning in excess, the ability to stay simple is not just wisdom, it is dominance. Think deeply, speak little. Thought is the forge. Silence is the heat that makes it work. When you resist the urge to fill every gap with noise, your mind sharpens. You start to see beneath the surface, patterns others miss, motives they reveal without meaning to, errors hiding in confident voices. Speaking less is not shyness, it is strategy. Words are a currency that loses value when overspent. Hold them. Let others broadcast their impulses and advertise their blind spots. In restraint, you gather leverage. Deep thinking slows the world to a pace you can command. You listen for what is not said, measure consequence before you move, prepare your strike while others exhaust themselves performing certainty. Silence unsettles the insecure and clarifies your own intent. You are no longer dragged by the current of conversation. You choose when to enter it, and when you do, your words land with weight. A single precise sentence can do more than a torrent of half-formed thoughts. To speak little is not to feel small, it is to make space for substance. You ask better questions. You refine your ideas until they can stand alone. You learn that timing is power and brevity is dominance. Think until your words cannot be mistaken. Then say only what must be said and nothing more. Suffering awakens. Suffering is the hand that tears away the veil between illusion and truth. It breaks you open, stripping away everything shallow, everything false, until you are forced to face life in its rawest form. Comfort keeps you asleep, safe, numb, unaware. But suffering shakes the soul from its slumber. It drags you out of the dream of control and confronts you with the reality that nothing is guaranteed, nothing is permanent, and nothing is truly yours. Pain is the alarm clock of consciousness. In suffering, you begin to see the people you trusted, the beliefs you clung to, the masks you wore, all reveal themselves for what they are. Suffering makes you question everything, your purpose, your attachments, your identity. It destroys the surface so that depth can be born. You learn to listen to silence, to appreciate the smallest mercies, to understand the language of resilience. Every tear waters the roots of wisdom. Every scar becomes a map back to yourself. The awakened do not curse their suffering. They bow to it. They understand that the fire which burns also purifies, that pain does not come to punish, but to reveal. Through suffering, arrogance dissolves, compassion grows, and perspective deepens. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start realizing, "Because I needed to see." Comfort hides truth behind softness, but suffering, merciless and sacred, reveals it in full. Those who endure it with open eyes do not remain the same. They emerge awake, unshaken, and unafraid. Calm minds dominate chaos. In the storm of life, the loudest voice is rarely the strongest. The calm one is. Chaos feeds on reaction. It grows in panic, confusion, and fear. The moment you lose control of your mind, chaos wins. But the one who remains still, who breathes through the noise and sees through the storm, holds the true power. Calmness is not weakness, it is command. It is the silent authority that bends turmoil without force, that turns disorder into opportunity. A calm mind does not ignore chaos, it observes it. While others rush to fix, to fight, to flee, the calm one watches, analyzes, waits, and then acts with precision. Emotion clouds judgment, serenity sharpens it. In the heat of anger or fear, reason collapses and mistakes multiply, but calm transforms confusion into clarity. It is the difference between reacting and responding, between surviving and mastering. The world belongs to those who can remain centered when everything around them falls apart. In argument, the calm one controls the tone. In crisis, the calm one commands the room. In battle, whether of words or will, the one who does not flinch dictates the outcome. Chaos cannot touch what it cannot disturb. The calm mind becomes untouchable, unbreakable, unstoppable. For when your inner world stays still, the outer world loses its power to shake you, and that is where domination truly begins. Avoid the herd. The herd offers comfort, but comfort is the cradle of blindness. To follow the crowd is to surrender your vision, to trade your mind for belonging. Most people don't think, they echo. They adopt the opinions handed to them, repeat the morals taught to them, and move in whatever direction feels safest. The herd is not united by truth, but by fear. Fear of standing alone, of being wrong, of being different. But the one who always follows never truly lives. They merely exist in someone else's shadow. Avoiding the herd is not rebellion for its own sake. It is preservation of identity. It means refusing to drown in collective noise, refusing to measure your worth by applause, and daring to think thoughts that offend comfort. The herd hates the individual because the individual reminds them of their cowardice. When you step away, they call you arrogant, strange, even dangerous, not because you are wrong, but because your freedom exposes their chains. To walk alone is to feel the cold wind of isolation, but it is also to breathe the air of truth. Solitude is the price of vision, independence, the tax of integrity. Those who avoid the herd see the world as it is, not as it's presented. They carve their own paths, and in doing so, become the very leaders the herd will one day follow. For the crowd may move fast, but it never moves forward. Only those who break away ever find where they were meant to go. Most praise is manipulation. Praise often hides intention behind its sweetness. It sounds like kindness, but more often it's a leash, a subtle way to steer behavior, to plant expectation, to control through approval. When people praise you, they're not always admiring you. Sometimes they're testing you. They want to see what you'll do for another taste of validation. Praise feeds the ego so it can be led. It's rarely about you. It's about what someone gains when you crave their admiration. The most dangerous manipulation isn't done through criticism, but through flattery. Criticism can awaken resistance. Praise lowers your guard. It makes you pliable, eager to please, addicted to the feeling of being seen. People use it to shape you, to encourage what serves them, to silence what threatens them. And the more you rely on external approval, the easier you are to control. Praise given skillfully can enslave the proud more effectively than fear. Those who understand this learn detachment from both insult and applause. They don't bend under judgment, and they don't glow under flattery. They move by principle, not perception. True recognition doesn't need to be spoken. It's felt in respect, not compliments. When praise no longer intoxicates you, manipulation loses its power. The wise accept praise with calm indifference, knowing that every kind word carries a shadow of motive. For in a world where attention is currency, praise is often the price paid to buy your obedience. Truth isolates the wise. The deeper one sinks into truth, the farther one drifts from the comfort of the crowd. Most people do not want the truth. They want reassurance. They crave the familiar warmth of shared delusion, not the cold clarity of reality. The wise learn this early. Every revelation comes with distance. The more you see, the fewer you can speak to. The conversations that once felt alive begin to sound hollow, because small talk dies where understanding grows. Truth strips away illusion, but in doing so, it strips away belonging. Wisdom demands solitude, because truth rarely survives among the many. The crowd rejects what exposes them. They will mock, dismiss, or condemn the one who sees too clearly because his vision threatens their comfort. To them, the truth teller becomes dangerous, a reminder of what they refuse to confront. So the wise walk alone, not out of arrogance, but necessity. They carry the burden of seeing through what others worship. Yet in that isolation, something sacred happens. Silence replaces noise, clarity replaces confusion, and the soul learns to stand without approval. Truth isolates, but it also purifies. The wise trade companionship for depth, validation for peace, illusion for light. They lose the crowd, but they find themselves, and though the path is lonelier, it is also freer, for solitude with truth is worth more than acceptance built on lies. Comfort weakens. Comfort is the slowest poison. It feels like peace, but it rots your edge, dulls your instincts, and sedates your hunger. The human spirit was forged in struggle, wired to adapt, to fight, to endure. But when life grows soft, so do we. Comfort whispers lies in gentle tones. You've earned your rest. You deserve ease. Stay where it's safe. And while you listen, your fire fades. Muscles atrophy without strain. Minds decay without challenge. And souls lose their depth when untouched by discomfort. Comfort doesn't kill suddenly. It erodes silently. The strong know that growth lives in tension. Every scar, every failure, every hardship refines the will. Pain is the blacksmith of character. Struggle is the forge of greatness. The weak seek warmth. The strong seek resistance. For the moment you settle into ease, you stop evolving. You become predictable, dependent, harmless. Comfort seduces you into mediocrity while convincing you that you are free. To resist comfort is to stay awake in a sleeping world. It is to choose purpose over pleasure, progress over peace. The fire inside must be fed with friction, not rest. The wise embrace discomfort not because they enjoy suffering, but because they understand its purpose. Pain sharpens, pressure strengthens, hardship purifies, comfort only cushions the fall of those who've already surrendered. In the end, strength is not built in safety, it's born in struggle. Comfort may feel like heaven, but it's where your greatness goes to die. Most praise is manipulation. Praise is the softest form of control. It wraps itself in warmth, in smiles, and sweet words, but beneath it often lies intent, a quiet attempt to guide, to shape, to own. Most praise is not given freely. It is given strategically. People praise to influence behavior, to secure favor, to make you crave their approval enough to bend toward it again. The compliment becomes a leash, disguised as affection, and the ego eagerly slips its head through the loop. The human heart is addicted to validation. It blooms under flattery, even when it knows it's being fed poison. And so, praise becomes a drug, rewarding compliance, dulling independence, taming authenticity. The more you depend on it, the less you act for truth, and the more you act for applause. The manipulator understands this well. They praise not what is right, but what benefits them. They inflate your pride just enough to make you obedient, predictable, easy to steer. But the deception cuts both ways. Those who manipulate through praise become prisoners of their own tactics. They can no longer connect genuinely, only through performance. And those who live for praise lose themselves entirely, mistaking admiration for identity. True strength lies in hearing praise without needing it, seeing through the sweetness and asking, what do they gain if I believe this? For most praise is not truth spoken, it is desire disguised as compliment, the art of control dressed in kindness. The clever play dumb. Wisdom often wears the mask of ignorance. The truly clever understand that showing intelligence too openly threatens the fragile egos of others, so they hide it behind simplicity, silence, or even apparent foolishness. They let others underestimate them because invisibility is the greatest strategic advantage. The clever play dumb, not out of deceit, but out of precision. They know that those who appear harmless can move freely, gather truth, and strike only when it matters. To appear less aware than you are is not weakness, it is control. The loudest minds crave validation, the quietest ones observe. By pretending not to know, the clever learn more. They listen while others reveal themselves. They nod while the arrogant expose their ignorance. They win not through confrontation, but through patience. When you stop needing to prove your intellect, you start to wield it. Playing dumb is not about deceit, it's about restraint. It is the art of holding your power in silence while others waste theirs in display. It allows you to navigate ego-filled rooms without resistance, to move through conflict unnoticed, to influence without appearing to lead. The clever understand that the mind is sharpest when hidden. Their silence is not emptiness, it's calculation. Their humility is not submission, it's camouflage. For the wise have learned the simplest truth about power. It works best when no one sees it coming. Truth isolates the wise. The deeper one sinks into truth, the farther one drifts from the comfort of the crowd. Most people do not want the truth. They want reassurance. They crave the familiar warmth of shared delusion, not the cold clarity of reality. The wise learn this early. Every revelation comes with distance. The more you see, the fewer you can speak to. The conversations that once felt alive begin to sound hollow because small talk dies where understanding grows. Truth strips away illusion, but in doing so, it strips away belonging. Wisdom demands solitude because truth rarely survives among the many. The crowd rejects what exposes them. They will mock, dismiss, or condemn the one who sees too clearly because his vision threatens their comfort. To them, the truth teller becomes dangerous, a reminder of what they refuse to confront. So the wise walk alone, not out of arrogance, but necessity. They carry the burden of seeing through what others worship. Yet, in that isolation, something sacred happens. Silence replaces noise, clarity replaces confusion, and the soul learns to stand without approval. Truth isolates, but it also purifies. The wise trade companionship for depth, validation for peace, illusion for light. They lose the crowd, but they find themselves. And though the path is lonelier, it is also freer, for solitude with truth is worth more than acceptance built on lies. Lies unite, truth divides. Lies are the glue that holds societies together. They soothe, they simplify, they give people something easy to believe in. Truth, on the other hand, shatters illusions. It fractures comfort, dismantles control, and demands courage most don't possess. The masses crave harmony, not honesty. They would rather live in a shared delusion than face a reality that forces them to think, to question, to change. Lies unite because they are soft. They comfort the ego and flatter the heart. Truth divides because it cuts. It exposes, humiliates, and offends. And though truth frees, freedom is rarely what people truly want. Every institution is built on a tapestry of lies stitched with good intentions. Religion, politics, love, and even friendship depend on selective truths. People pretend for peace. They nod, smile, and agree, not because they believe, but because confrontation threatens belonging. To speak truth is to draw a line in the sand, to risk exile from the comfort of the collective. That is why truth-tellers are often hated first and honored later, when their voices can no longer disrupt the crowd. Lies unite because they ask nothing but compliance. Truth divides because it demands integrity. To live in truth is to stand alone more often than not, to lose friends, security, and illusion alike. But it is also to live awake, unchained, and real. Unity built on lies is fragile harmony. Division born of truth is the beginning of freedom. The question is not which you prefer, it's which you can survive. Peace follows withdrawal. Peace does not come from winning every battle. It comes from walking away from the war entirely. The world teaches you to fight for attention, to chase validation, to prove your worth to those who never care to see it. But the moment you withdraw from arguments, from chaos, from the endless noise of needing to be understood, you begin to taste something rare, quiet. Withdrawal is not defeat, it is liberation. It is the act of reclaiming your energy from places that only drained it. The constant struggle for control, love, or recognition keeps the soul restless. You burn yourself trying to fix what was never yours to hold, until exhaustion teaches you what wisdom could not. That peace is not found in conquest, but in release. When you withdraw, the world loses its grip. You stop reacting, stop explaining, stop bleeding energy into things that no longer deserve it. In that silence, your spirit resets. The chaos fades and clarity begins to rise from the ashes. Withdrawal is an act of power disguised as surrender. It is choosing serenity over validation, solitude over noise, stillness over struggle. Those who misunderstand it call it weakness. Those who've tasted it know its strength. For when you stop chasing, life begins to come to you. The peace that follows withdrawal is not fragile. It is sacred, born from the realization that nothing external can disturb what you no longer give permission to touch. Those who want least rule most. Power bends most easily to those who do not crave it. The ones desperate to rule are ruled by their desire. They chase authority like beggars chase coins. mistaking control for strength. But those who want little, who are unmoved by titles, flattery, or reward, they hold a power that cannot be taken. Desire breeds dependence. Detachment breeds dominance. When you no longer need the world's approval, the world loses its hold on you. The greatest leaders, the true masters, move not from greed, but from clarity. They act because they must, not because they hunger to. Their choices are clean, untouched by desperation. You cannot bribe or threaten the person who has nothing to prove. Their calm unnerves the ambitious. Their restraint exposes the insecure. While others claw for attention, the detached simply are, and in that stillness, influence gathers around them like gravity. Wanting nothing is the ultimate form of control. It means you cannot be manipulated by fear or temptation. You become unpredictable to those who play games of dominance because you are no longer playing at all. The world's power structures depend on hunger, on people needing to win, to be seen, to belong. But those who rise above that hunger see the strings others dance on, and from that higher vantage, without even trying, they rule, not through force, but through the quiet authority of freedom. Never show need. Need exposes weakness, and weakness invites control. The moment you show desperation, whether for love, approval, or attention, you hand your power to whoever can withhold it. People sense need like blood in the water. They might not admit it, but instinctively they respect strength and exploit hunger. The one who needs nothing commands everything, while the one who needs is always at the mercy of those who can give or take. Need makes you chase. It makes you justify mistreatment, settle for less, and call it patience. It turns love into pleading, ambition into obsession, and kindness into currency. To show need is to show dependency, and dependency is the death of freedom. Those who master restraint, who want yet do not beg, who love yet do not cling, move through the world untouched by manipulation. They draw respect, not pity. Control is quiet. Why is quiet? It lives in the pause before you react, in the silence where others expect you to plead. When you stop showing need, you shift from seeker to chooser. You become the one who decides, not the one who waits. Desire still exists, but it no longer owns you. The world bends toward those who act like they can walk away from it. And that's the paradox. The less you show need, the more the world gives, because power belongs to the one who doesn't ask for it. Fear nothing, want nothing. Freedom begins when fear ends, and peace begins when desire dies. To fear nothing is to move through life untouched by threat. To want nothing is to exist beyond control. Every chain that binds the human spirit is forged from those two illusions, fear of loss and hunger for gain. The world manipulates through them both. Fear keeps you obedient, desire keeps you chasing. Between them, your mind becomes a battlefield of imagined futures, one filled with dread, the other with craving. Both steal the present moment, both steal your power. To fear nothing is not recklessness, it is awareness. It means seeing danger without being ruled by it, knowing that everything passes, pain, praise, even life itself. Fear thrives on attachment, and when you detach, fear starves. To want nothing is not apathy, it is mastery. It is the calm refusal to let desire dictate your direction. The one who wants nothing cannot be bought, bribed, or broken. They move through chaos untouched, not because the world bends for them, but because they no longer bend for it. Those who fear nothing and want nothing have transcended the game. They cannot be manipulated, for there is nothing left to threaten or promise. Their power lies in stillness, their strength in simplicity. While others chase shadows or run from them, they remain unmoved, steady, clear, and free. For the one who has conquered both fear and desire no longer lives as a servant to the world, they live as its master. Detach or suffer. Attachment is the root of every ache, the invisible thread that ties your peace to things you cannot control. The more tightly you hold, the more it hurts when life inevitably pulls away. We cling to people, outcomes, identities, and illusions as if they could promise permanence, yet everything we love is temporary. Detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the quiet understanding that nothing belongs to you, not even your own emotions, and that trying to possess the transient is the surest path to pain. Suffering begins where expectation takes root. You suffer when you expect love to stay, when you expect life to be fair, when you expect the world to reflect your desire. But reality does not bend for attachment. It tears it apart until you learn to let go. Detachment is the art of releasing without resentment, of caring without clinging, of loving without losing yourself in the process. It is freedom, not indifference. Those who cannot detach live in constant fear, fear of loss, fear of change, fear of the unknown. Those who can detach walk through life untouchable, not because they feel less, but because they understand more. They love deeply, but without ownership. They strive fiercely, but without obsession. To detach is to accept that peace and control cannot coexist. You either cling and break or release and breathe. Life demands impermanence. Wisdom accepts it. Detach, or the world will tear from you what you refuse to let go. To master others, master desire. The one who controls desire controls the world. Every action, every ambition, every conflict is driven by wanting power, validation, safety, love. Desire is the lever by which people are moved. Those who cannot master it are slaves to it, but those who understand it, those who can read it, restrain it, and redirect it, become untouchable. When you learn to rule your own desires, you stop being predictable, and when you stop being predictable, you become powerful. To master desire is to silence the cravings that make others easy to manipulate, the need to be right, to be admired, to be loved. These are chains disguised as passions. When you break them, no flattery can sway you, no insult can provoke you. You become calm where others chase, focused where others fall apart. You stop being baited by emotion and start guiding those who still are. The crowd dances for what it wants. The master watches and waits. Those who know what others desire can lead them effortlessly. They promise what people crave, withhold what they fear losing, and move them without resistance. Yet the true mastery lies deeper, not in exploiting desire, but in transcending it. When your happiness no longer depends on acquisition or approval, you gain the one thing desire can never offer: freedom. And from that freedom, influence flows naturally. For the world bows to the one who no longer kneels before want. Clarity hurts but frees. Clarity is the death of illusion, and every illusion dies screaming. It burns away the comforting lies you once wrapped around your heart, the fantasies that made you feel safe, loved, certain. To see things as they truly are is to lose the stories that kept you blind, and that loss feels like pain. Clarity doesn't arrive gently. It tears through denial, revealing motives, truths, and flaws you were never ready to face. It hurts because it forces you to confront the reality that not everything or everyone you believed in was real. But beneath that pain lies liberation. Once the fog lifts, you stop chasing what was never meant for you. You stop begging life to give meaning to things that were hollow from the start. Clarity strips, but it also cleanses. It takes away comfort, yet replaces it with strength. You begin to act, not from fantasy, but from understanding. Decisions become sharp. Boundaries become unshakable. You see people as they are, not as you hope them to be. And in that vision, peace quietly returns. Most run from clarity because they fear the ache of awakening. They would rather live gently deceived than painfully aware. But the pain of truth is temporary. The prison of delusion is endless. Clarity may wound, but it never enslaves. It breaks your heart only to hand it back, lighter, wiser, and finally free. The world rewards deceit. Honesty may earn respect, but deceit earns results. The world does not run on virtue, it runs on advantage. Those who lie skillfully, manipulate subtly, and hide their intentions behind charm often rise faster than those who play fair. Deceit lubricates the machinery of power. It bends perception, shapes belief, and controls outcome. Truth is rigid. It limits what can be said, what can be done. But deceit is flexible. It molds itself to whatever the world demands. The cunning understand this. They know that people do not crave truth. They crave comfort, and deception gives it to them beautifully wrapped in reassurance. The world punishes sincerity because truth threatens structure. It exposes hypocrisy, challenges authority, and breaks illusions that keep society stable. Those who speak it too boldly become outcasts or martyrs, while those who disguise their truth behind lies become leaders. Deceit, when elegant, is not condemned, it is admired. People call it strategy, diplomacy, professionalism. The world respects results, not righteousness, and deceit often delivers both. Yet deceit's reward is double-edged. It grants power, but corrodes the soul. It buys influence, but breeds paranoia. To lie is to build an empire on sand, brilliant until it collapses. But while it stands, the deceiver reigns. That is the cruel truth of human nature. Honesty inspires, but deceit succeeds. And in a world obsessed with winning, virtue rarely stands a chance against the mask that smiles while it lies. Detach or suffer. Attachment is the root of every ache, the invisible thread that ties your peace to things you cannot control. The more tightly you hold, the more it hurts when life inevitably pulls away. We cling to people, outcomes, identities, and illusions as if they could promise permanence, yet everything we love is temporary. Detachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the quiet understanding that nothing belongs to you, not even your own emotions, and that trying to possess the transient is the surest path to pain. Suffering begins where expectation takes root. You suffer when you expect love to stay, when you expect life to be fair, when you expect the world to reflect your desire. But reality does not bend for attachment. It tears it apart until you learn to let go. Detachment is the art of releasing without resentment, of caring without clinging, of loving without losing yourself in the process. It is freedom, not indifference. Those who cannot detach live in constant fear, fear of loss, fear of change, fear of the unknown. Those who can detach walk through life untouchable, not because they feel less, but because they understand more. They love deeply, but without ownership. They strive fiercely, but without obsession. To detach is to accept that peace and control cannot coexist. You either cling and break or release and breathe. Life demands impermanence. Wisdom accepts it. Detach, or the world will tear from you what you refuse to let go. Every man serves his illusion. No one serves reality, only the version of it they can bear. Every man lives within a dream of his own making, an illusion stitched together from belief, memory, and desire. He convinces himself that his cause is righteous, his choice is rational, his path inevitable. But beneath the surface, he moves according to the stories he's built to make existence tolerable. These illusions are not lies, they are armor. Without them, the weight of truth would crush him. The worker serves his illusion of purpose, the lover his illusion of forever, the powerful his illusion of control. Each clings to something unreal to give meaning to the chaos. And when the illusion cracks, so does the man. He scrambles to rebuild it, to restore the comfort of self-deception, because to face reality unfiltered is to stand naked before the void. Illusion gives shape to the shapeless, order to the unbearable uncertainty of being alive. The tragedy is not that men believe illusions, it's that they forget they are illusions. They become enslaved by the very dreams that once protected them. The wise man still serves his illusion, but he does so knowingly. He wears it like a mask, not a face. He understands that belief is a tool, not a truth. Most live for their illusions. The awakened use theirs to live. For the moment you recognize your illusion as illusion, you stop serving it, and it starts serving you. Want less. Live more. Life shrinks beneath the weight of endless wanting. The more you crave, the more distant peace becomes, always just beyond the next possession, the next success, the next fleeting thrill. Desire keeps you chasing what you already have within reach. The simple miracle of being alive. Every more you chase pulls you further from the present moment, trapping you in a loop where contentment is always postponed. You run faster, achieve greater, consume endlessly, yet satisfaction never arrives, because wanting is a thirst that deepens with every sip. To want less is not to give up. It is to wake up. It is seeing that life's richness is not hidden in excess, but in enough. When you stop needing everything, you begin to notice something: the warmth of light on your skin, the laughter that breaks silence, the stillness that feels like peace, the noise of craving quiets, and space opens for gratitude to breathe. Freedom does not come from having all you want. It comes from no longer needing to. Wanting less is an act of rebellion in a world that feeds on hunger. It is choosing presence over possession, depth over distraction. When you want less, every simple thing becomes extraordinary. Every breath feels full, every moment complete. Life expands, not when you collect more, but when you finally realize nothing was missing. The wise stay unseen. Wisdom does not crave the spotlight. It thrives in the shadows. The truly wise understand that visibility invites interference, envy, and distortion. To be seen is to be measured, and to be measured is to be diminished. The wise withdraw from spectacle, not out of fear, but out of power. They move silently, influencing without announcing, observing without needing to be acknowledged. Their strength lies in restraint, their presence felt rather than flaunted. The unseen hold advantage because no one can prepare for what they cannot predict. Noise is the language of the insecure. The loud reveal their intentions, expose their weaknesses, and become prisoners of their own performance. The unseen remain untouchable, free from expectation, immune to manipulation. They learn more by watching than others do by speaking, and when they act, it is decisive, unstoppable, final. Their power is not in motion but in mastery, the quiet certainty of those who need nothing proven. Stillness is dominance. It unsettles the frantic and disarms the arrogant. While others rush to be noticed, the wise conserve their energy, knowing that attention is a currency best spent by fools. To stay unseen is to stay unbound, to move without resistance, to plan without scrutiny, to win before the world even realizes there was a game being played. For in stillness there is control, and in invisibility there is freedom. The wise do not shine, they eclipse. Expect nothing from anyone. Expectation is the root of disappointment, the quiet poison that turns connection into dependency. Every time you expect, you hand someone the power to wound you. You create a story in your mind, a version of how others should behave, how they should love, how they should care, and then suffer when they don't follow a script they never read. The more you expect, the more you suffer, because people act from their nature, not your hope. To expect nothing is not bitterness, it is liberation. It is seeing people as they are, not as you wish them to be. It's loving without ownership, helping without demand, giving without waiting for return. When you expect nothing, every kindness becomes a gift instead of an obligation. You stop keeping score, stop chasing fairness, stop resenting what never was yours to control. The absence of expectation does not harden you, it frees you. Most relationships crumble, not from betrayal, but from unspoken demands. We chain others with invisible weight, calling it loyalty or love, when in truth it's need. But when you release expectation, you create space for sincerity. You begin to experience people, not use them. Peace replaces resentment. Gratitude replaces disappointment. Expect nothing from anyone. not because the world is cruel, but because it's human. And when you no longer expect, everything good that arrives feels like grace, not debt. Pain ends illusions. Pain is the great revealer. It tears through the pretty lies we build to keep ourselves comfortable. It does not ask permission. It rips away masks, burns down fantasies, and forces truth into the open. We resist it, curse it, numb it, but pain is the only teacher honest enough to show us what is real. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every failure peels away another layer of illusion. You learn who cares and who only claimed to. You learn what matters and what was never worth the cost. Pain doesn't destroy you. It destroys the false you that believed comfort was safety and ignorance was peace. Illusion thrives in ease. When life is soft, lies go unnoticed. We convince ourselves that things will last, that people mean their words, that we control our fate. Pain shatters that illusion, and though it leaves scars, it leaves wisdom too. It sharpens you, it sobers you, it reminds you that truth is rarely gentle, but always necessary. The moment pain arrives, the pretending ends. You stop seeking perfection and start seeking honesty. You stop demanding certainty and begin to accept reality. Pain cleanses perception. It strips the soul bare until nothing false can hide. And when the illusions are gone, what remains is raw, unfiltered truth. It hurts, yes, but in that hurt, you find freedom, because what pain destroys are not your dreams, but the lies that kept you from living them honestly. Trust rarely, observe always. Trust is the most expensive gift you can give, and the easiest one to betray. The wise do not offer it freely. They measure it, test it, and even then, never surrender it completely. People wear masks made of charm and good intentions, but time always reveals the truth beneath. To trust blindly is to hand someone the knife that may one day be turned against you. Observation, not faith, is the shield of the strong. It is through watching, not believing, that you see who people truly are when the performance fades. Observation is quiet power. It asks for nothing, reveals nothing, yet learns everything. The one who observes cannot be deceived for long, because patterns never lie. Words can be polished, but behavior betrays. The observant mind notices the hesitation before a promise, the flicker in the eyes after a lie, the small inconsistencies that expose what the mouth conceals. Most people miss the truth not because it is hidden, but because they are too eager to trust. To trust rarely is not cynicism. It is wisdom earned through wounds. It means knowing that loyalty is fragile, that honesty is conditional, that everyone has motives, even you. But to observe always is to see without illusion, to protect yourself without closing your heart. The world belongs to those who watch carefully and act deliberately. Trust may comfort you, but observation empowers you. And in a world built on masks, those who see clearly rule those who simply believe. Speak little, act sharp. Power is diluted by words and sharpened by silence. The more you speak, the more you reveal your thoughts, your fears, your limits. The world listens not to the one who talks the most, but to the one who speaks with precision. Words are cheap, action is costly, and only the latter commands respect. Those who speak little conserve their energy, their mystery, their control. They let others fill the silence, exposing themselves in the process while they observe, calculate, and strike when the moment is right. To speak little is to master restraint, a skill few possess in a world addicted to noise. It is knowing that silence intimidates the insecure and unsettles the deceitful. Every word you hold back becomes a weapon sharpened by patience. And when you finally speak, your words cut through the room like a blade, because they carry weight forged in thought, not impulse. But speech alone means nothing without action. To act sharp is to move with intent, to strike cleanly, decisively, without hesitation or explanation. The strong waste no time convincing others of their worth. They let results speak in their place. A single act done with precision carries more power than 1,000 promises. Speak little, act sharp. That is the creed of those who lead quietly and win loudly. For noise fades, but impact echoes. And in the end, it is not the voice that conquers, it is the strike. No one truly cares. The harsh truth that most refuse to face is this: people are absorbed in their own worlds, ruled by their own fears, desires, and distractions. Compassion exists, yes, but it flickers, temporary, often born from guilt or fleeting empathy. When the moment passes, everyone returns to the orbit of themselves. No one truly cares in the way we wish they did, constantly, deeply, selflessly. We crave to be understood, to be seen, to be saved, but most are too busy trying to save themselves. This truth sounds cruel, yet it is freeing. When you stop expecting others to carry your pain, you begin to stand on your own legs. You stop waiting for rescue and start building resilience. The realization that no one truly cares doesn't darken life. It clarifies it. It teaches you to stop performing for approval, to stop molding yourself for affection, to stop confusing attention with love. You learn to give without needing to be thanked, to love without needing to be loved back, to act rightly without witnesses. Those who accept this truth become untouchable. They see care as a rare gift, not a promise. They cherish kindness, but do not depend on it. And in that independence, they find strength far greater than comfort. For when you stop needing the world to care, you begin to move through it freely, steady, silent, and unbroken. The few who truly care will reveal themselves through action, not words. But even then, the wise remain whole without them. Self-mastery is sovereignty. To rule yourself is the only true form of power. The world can strip you of wealth, status, or love, but it cannot touch the one who governs his own mind. Self-mastery is not about suppression. It is about command. It is knowing your impulses without obeying them, feeling anger without being ruled by it, and pursuing desire without being enslaved to its outcome. The one who masters himself becomes untouchable because nothing external can dictate his inner state. Most people live as servants to emotion and circumstance. They are tossed by moods, provoked by opinions, and controlled by their cravings. They react instead of choose. Their lives belong to everything that triggers them. But self-mastery breaks those chains. It turns chaos into order and weakness into will. It is the moment you stop being a victim of your instincts and start being the architect of your response. Sovereignty begins within. It is the quiet authority of a person who no longer needs to prove, chase, or please. When you master yourself, you stop seeking control over others, because power over the self is greater than power over the world. Discipline becomes freedom, restraint becomes dominance, and peace becomes your throne. The sovereign self bows to nothing, not fear, not lust, not ego. It moves through the storm untouched, not because it avoids the wind, but because it has learned how to stand still while it blows. The mind is a battlefield. Every day you wake up to war, not outside, but within. The mind is where fear fights courage, doubt challenges faith, and desire wages endless war against discipline. It is not life that breaks most people. It is the chaos inside their own thoughts. The mind can be your greatest weapon or your most relentless enemy. It creates realities that never existed, resurrects ghosts that should be buried, and magnifies pain until it becomes identity. You fight not the world, but the voices within it, the ones that whisper you're not enough, the ones that tempt you to surrender. This battlefield is invisible, yet it leaves the deepest scars. Every decision, every hesitation, every self-betrayal begins there. The mind twists truth, rationalizes weakness, and cloaks fear in reason. But the strong know how to fight back. They train their thoughts like soldiers, disciplined, focused, ruthless against distraction. They learn that peace is not given, it's conquered. It's the aftermath of mental war, the silence earned after silencing everything that screams against your purpose. The weak seek escape from their minds. The The strong master them. They understand that thoughts are not commands, but challenges, and only through conflict does clarity emerge. The mind will always be a battlefield. You cannot avoid it, but you can choose which side wins. And when you finally learn to command your thoughts instead of obey them, the war doesn't end. It just begins to fight for you instead of against you. Indifference disarms envy. Envy feeds on attention. It thrives when it senses that its venom has reached you. When your glow dims, your tone shifts, your peace falters in its shadow. The envious do not simply covet what you have. They crave the satisfaction of knowing they can disturb you. Your reaction is their reward, but indifference starves them. When their jealousy meets silence instead of insecurity, it withers. Nothing confuses or weakens envy more than calm unconcern. To be unaffected is to become untouchable. Indifference is not apathy, it is mastery. It means seeing envy for what it is, a confession of weakness disguised as resentment. The envious want to drag you into comparison, to make you question what you've earned, to turn your joy into guilt. But when you remain unmoved, you remind them that their bitterness has no power. True strength lies not in defending yourself, but in not needing to. The indifferent carry a kind of quiet dominance. Their peace cannot be stolen because it is not dependent on perception. They neither explain nor retaliate. They simply exist, radiant and self-contained. Envy loses its teeth against such stillness. While others waste energy plotting, gossiping, or competing, the indifferent move forward untouched, too focused on their own path to be distracted by the noise of small minds. For envy demands reaction, and indifference gives it none. And in that void, envy dies gasping for attention that never comes. To need nothing is divine. Need is the root of suffering. It ties the soul to fear, fear of loss, fear of lack, fear of never being enough. Every attachment, every craving, every desperate want tightens the chain between you and the world. The more you need, the less you are free. To need nothing is not to reject life. It is to transcend it. It is to rise above the endless hunger that keeps most people chasing shadows. The one who needs nothing cannot be manipulated, cannot be broken, cannot be owned. He stands complete, untouched by the ebb and flow of fortune. To need nothing is to taste eternity. It is to dwell in stillness while the world burns with desire. It is the quiet divinity of contentment, the state where the mind no longer reaches, the heart no longer begs, and the soul no longer fears. You stop bargaining with life because you already have what cannot be taken, yourself. Hunger fades, and in its absence, clarity blooms. This is the freedom saints spoke of, the peace philosophers sought, the unshakable calm of detachment. To need nothing is not emptiness. It is fullness without dependence. It is the realization that happiness was never in having, but in being. Most spend their lives enslaved to desire, praying for more. The divine pray for nothing and receive everything. For when you no longer need, the universe can no longer harm you. You become what all seekers chase but never hold, whole, weightless, and free. Freedom begins when wanting ends. As long as you want, you are chained. Every desire ties your peace to something outside yourself, a person, a goal, a promise of someday. You become a prisoner of pursuit, running endlessly toward satisfaction that vanishes the moment you touch it. Wanting feels like movement, but it is bondage disguised as purpose. The more you crave, the smaller your world becomes, because every thought bends toward what you lack. True freedom begins not in getting what you want, but in no longer needing it. When wanting ends, silence begins. You stop chasing, comparing, and begging life to complete you. You begin to see that the constant ache for more is what kept you empty. Freedom is not found in abundance but in absence, in the peace that comes when nothing owns your attention or dictates your happiness. The less you need, the less you can be controlled. No manipulation, no loss, no rejection can touch the one who no longer depends on desire to feel alive. The end of wanting is not emptiness, it is clarity. You see the world without hunger distorting it. You begin to live fully in each moment, not as a seeker, but as one who finally is. To want nothing is to possess everything that matters: stillness, presence, and power. Because the moment you stop reaching for life to give you more, life finally reveals that you already had enough. Emotion is a leash. Emotion controls more people than reason ever could. It pulls, tugs, and binds the mind with invisible chains. Obedience disguised as passion, weakness disguised as depth. Those who cannot master their emotions become slaves to them, reacting instead of deciding, driven instead of directing. Anger makes them speak before thinking. Love makes them blind to deception. Fear makes them small, compliant, safe. Every emotion promises truth, but most deliver control. The world knows this and exploits it. Politicians rule through fear, advertisers sell through desire, and manipulators conquer through guilt. Emotion is the perfect leash because people choose to wear it. To feel is human, but to be ruled by feeling is submission. The strong still feel everything. They simply refuse to be commanded by it. They understand that emotion is information, not instruction. They let it whisper, but never let it steer. When rage burns, they turn it into focus. When pain rises, they forge resilience. When love tempts, they remain clear. Control is not coldness, it is freedom. Emotion promises power, but delivers captivity. It makes you predictable, pliable, easy to lead. The one who controls their emotions controls their fate. The one who doesn't becomes a puppet, pulled by every passing impulse. To cut the leash is not to kill emotion, it is to tame it, to make it serve your will instead of enslaving it. Only then do you stop reacting to life and begin commanding it. Predictability is vulnerability. The moment people can predict you, they can control you. Routine makes you comfortable, but it also makes you readable, and what can be read can be exploited. Predictability reveals your patterns, your triggers, your weaknesses. It tells the world where to press, when to strike, and how to win. The more consistent you are in your reactions, the easier you are to manipulate. Predictability feels safe because it gives you structure, but to others, it gives opportunity. What you call stability, they call a map. Unpredictability is power. It breeds uncertainty in those who seek to control you. When people cannot anticipate your next move, they hesitate, and in that hesitation lies your advantage. The strong know when to shift rhythm, when to act out of character, when to surprise the expectations others have built around them. To be unpredictable is not to be erratic, it is to be strategic. Chaos in small doses confuses control. The predictable mind is transparent. The unpredictable one is untouchable. When others cannot define you, they cannot confine you. Predictability is the comfort of the weak, those who prefer to be understood rather than unassailable. But power belongs to mystery. Those who master unpredictability do not just survive, they dominate, because no one can strike what they cannot foresee. In a world obsessed with patterns, the most dangerous weapon you can wield is unpredictability itself. Mercy invites exploitation. Mercy is noble, but the world rarely rewards nobility. To show mercy is to expose your softness, and in a world of predators, softness is blood in the water. People romanticize compassion, yet behind closed doors, it is often the merciful who are broken first. Mercy, to the ungrateful, is not seen as grace, it is seen as weakness. Show it too freely, and it teaches others not gratitude, but entitlement. The cruel learn quickly whom they can wound without consequence, and they return to that mercy again and again until it bleeds dry. Mercy must be guided by wisdom, not sentiment. To forgive without discernment is to invite repetition. To spare without boundary is to become complicit in your own suffering. Mercy without strength becomes self-destruction, a kindness that poisons its giver. The world does not balance itself through fairness. It balances itself through consequence. Take away consequence, and you teach people that harm has no cost. True mercy is not the absence of punishment, but the presence of understanding. It is choosing restraint when revenge is easy, but not at the expense of self-respect. The strong show mercy once, the naive show it endlessly. Mercy should be sacred, rare, deliberate, never habitual, for when mercy becomes predictable, it stops being virtue and starts being vulnerability. The wise know when to forgive and when to end, because mercy, like power, loses meaning when given to those who only learn how to exploit it.